various department heads, and et cetera. So having said that, I will make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public session of May 4th, 2017, for reasons that affecting the person's reputation, et cetera.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yeah. Those opposed, it is carried 3-0. Okay. The agenda has as the first thing, some recognition of a police officer. He is currently on an assignment, but I believe he will be here sometime during the evening, so I'm going to postpone that recognition until a little later. So we will go to the second point on the appointments and announcements, which is Mike Chalinas.
Just to give you a little history, the boat launch that you have, boat landing, whatever you want to call it, up on, before the hatchery, I was one of the driving forces that tried to get, that got that approved by the Selectmen. And my understanding is that the Dudley property on Downing's Pond is now tax deeded to the town. And some people question if we could get out underneath the dam, so one of those, I mean the bridge, so one of those pictures, this picture here, this is about 5 feet under the bridge. I used to use it quite regularly when I was a kid, because I used to park right on the dam with my motorboat when I was about 8 years old, so I've used it quite a bit in the past. And the second picture just shows that there's a gravel spot. He had a raft down there. And all I'm looking for is a place we can put kayaks and canoes in to go out onto Downing's Pond. It's the only major pond we have in town that we don't have public access to.
Do you know the map lot?
No, I
Dudley's?
didn't do much research.
No, that's okay. I didn't know if you had, it's on Main Street, right?
It's 50. It's a map 250, lot 16, I believe. Yeah.
So at the present time, I wasn't even,
Yeah, it is. Sorry.
at the present time, I didn't even see where it needed any changes, any improvement. It was mostly just a place to walk down, drop your canoe in and go for paddling.
What about the parking?
Because if you look at it from Main Street, I haven't been on that property, it looks like, you know, there's some pretty rough pavement, and then does it drop off quickly, or?
Well, I would imagine most people would park right about where I'm putting this, which is right off the road. I park there with my Ford Focus, which is got 5 inches of clearance, so I'd say it's smooth enough for that.
In the walkway?
It's just a gravel
Yeah.
path going down. It takes 3 years, I believe, before it's all totally settled after tax. So, you know, maybe in 3 years we might do something, or if the town is actually in there doing something for the dam, you know, we might want to talk about it. 'Cause I know that's coming up at some point. But
2016 is when it became tax deeded, so it'll be 2019 at the earliest part. So what you're asking for is the town to consider that as remaining in town ownership and use it as a public, potential public launching, or?
well, I'd like to be using it now when I do my water quality testing. I've actually had people when I go down the Manitou Shores saying, this is Manitou property. I looked at tax deed, it doesn't look like it is, but instead of arguing, I'd rather have a place that I can put in.
Let me correct my understanding then. What you're looking for is permission from the board to use it for your access for water testing?
No, I'm looking
For both?
I'm looking for both, and what I'd like to do is use it for the next 3 years without any changes, Then maybe after the town owns it free and clear, then we might look at improvements if we need it. But I'm saying right now, it's just a place to carry a canoe down and put it on to,
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I have absolutely no problem for you to use it as a launching for your water testing process, but I'm only one person, so I'd like to hear what the rest.
So I think it's
Okay.
more than just the water testing process, it's for recreation as well.
Well, there's two parts, right?
yeah, okay,
Right?
It can be used as recreation now with no enhancements to the property, is that correct?
that's my feeling, yeah.
Okay. So I wouldn't, is there any legal
Well, there may be some
restrictions?
insurance issues that I'd like to check relative to the full public access to it. But I don't, that's why I kind of broke it down into at least two, maybe three pieces now. One is your access for water testing, and I have says, I have no problem with that. Second part, should it be open to public for any other recreational access for canoes, et cetera. That I'd like to have a little bit of insurance feedback on first, if you could put that as an action item.
And just kind of check out the parking.
And then future, yeah, and then future would be consideration for a wider public access kind of thing, you know, after it gets into the 3-year process.
All tax deeded properties are on the coverage list for the insurance. Matter of fact, I just went through that with getting the other quote.
The issue here is it's a little more public usage than what most tax deeded properties might incur. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's a property liability side
Right.
of things,
Right.
general liability. General liability, I mean, your rates could be affected, you know, if you put a playground in.
And that's what I'm saying.
And had public access to it. I mean, you're not restricting access on the on your tax deeded properties unless you have them posted. So.
right.
So,
But that's
I'll
what
check
I'm saying,
that.
if you would just verify any insurance implications, should we so choose to open it up for public access for, you know, canoe launch, et cetera.
Yeah,
That would be non-motorized launch, I'm assuming, but as I said before, breaking it down, I have no problem with you, as
Okay.
part of your water quality testing access,
Yep.
opening it up. Again, I'm only one person, so I think it should be.
I'll certainly endorse Mike using it for his needs, but I also like the idea that he's proposing of, if we can, turning that into
I do
a
too.
public facility. I think that would be really good to do. So, but I know we need to find out.
Yeah, you gotta do your research.
Yeah, and it would need some cleanup.
Yep.
In the parking area. Actually, I think it would get so much use, your parking area might not even be sufficient. Honestly, I think it would.
I don't picture that if it's if you put a ramp, then you get into other issues. And that's
But just
why
to carry on.
I thought it'd be less controversial if we just had carry-in type thing. And I can tell you the places I've been in Maine, rafting, you're coming out some pretty nasty areas, so I wouldn't think it's an issue, but.
Well, just to add to it for your thinking, in the future, if parking was an issue and people haul their kayaks or their small canoes, they can park in the rec area.
And there's more area there. If it's cleaned up, there's quite a bit of area there.
Okay.
So again, I'd like to break down into its 3 different parts then, again, reiterating. One is access for his water testing. As I said, my position is no problem having that, and you need that sooner than later. The other part is we await the insurance response for opening up to public, not what I call public non-motorized watercraft usage.
I would make an exception, I think, for a trolling motor in case someone wants to take a little.
I think long as you don't build a ramp to it,
Yeah,
most places call it car top carry.
okay,
And if they can't back a boat up to it, you're not gonna get a very big boat
No.
in there.
yeah.
If they gotta carry it down, that's kind of a limiting factor in itself.
Good thinking.
Well, the concern I have,
Yeah,
the concern I have is, this is immediately downstream of the cyanobacteria closing from last summer.
yeah.
I have a concern opening that up to public usage without understanding what that ramification is also potentially. But as I said, from the testing part, I don't have any problem with
Well, you post it closed just like you do
that. Right.
the boat landing down on Route 11, people were wading in,
Yeah, I know.
fishing in it, right through the blue.
But again, it's one thing,
Yeah.
people do that on their own decision, it's another thing to have the town say, yeah.
Well, that's the fishing game boat launch, but anyways, yeah, I understand.
Okay. We did have a member of the audience ask for a comment. If you state your name and.
My name is
address.
David Beckford from 183 Old Racket Road, rather. And I'm favorable to the usage of the property. If you define the usage, then you get into problems of, you know, a boat launch. If it's a boat launch, you get a grant. Grants have to have certain specifications. Folks up Marion Lake can tell you about that. Scott really answered the question, and what he said, well, if it isn't posted, it is public. So right now, anybody can go on that property, people are going on the property, and they can use the property, as long as you don't put up no trespassing sign. But if you do get into specific things, now you got liability things that come to issue. If you're going to get into announcing what it can be going to be used for a boat launch, I would like to have you have Scott or someone speak to Robert Beckford, because he owns the high water mark over there. He owns all the way across that pond.
Robert?
Beckford. So, the high water, he owns right across that, the high water mark.
On both sides?
Yeah. So it'd be just courteous to
Well,
let him know I'm sure.
he doesn't own that particular piece of property, but he does have surrounding abutting property.
I don't even know if the other boat landing we did was ever listed as far as the insurance as a boat landing. You know,
But it's,
it never came up 20 years ago when we did it.
I would just say, well, allow, you know, you're not disallowing people, so therefore people can use it. And you know, I'd work with Scott if there's any issues on it.
Yeah.
There are people using it now.
So at the current time, in the current situation, it's accessible to people in the community. And we would only take action in 2019 should we wish to make some enhancements.
Retain it as a town tax
Yes.
property. Okay,
All right.
that answer your question, all set?
Yeah, I guess you're gonna check further about the.
Yeah, but your access for water testing, again, I
Yeah, yeah.
haven't heard any opposing opinions, so by consensus,
Yep.
I'd say.
And just a
that's
little
permissible.
head update, we'll get new selectmen. Tomorrow, we're actually training a few of us as lake monitors, so we'll be certified. And EPA is gonna start testing shortly, and we'll be showing.
While you're in, I'll tie it into that, I was gonna do it later in the session, but there is the first meeting of the steering committee of the cyanobacteria mitigation steering committee on May 11th, a week from tonight, at 7 o'clock in the community room, I believe,
Okay.
just as an FYI for the public. Again, this, follow up a little bit of detail. This has actually blossomed into a very positive collaboration. And Mike, I know you're aware of a lot of it also, but members from Alton, the Select Board, Conservation Commission, and Milfoil, and members from the Durham Select Board, Conservation, and Milfoil. A couple of at-large members, some New Hampshire DES, New Hampshire Fish and Game, all members of that collaboration, and tonight will be the first formal organization of that collaborative initiative. Very, very encouraged by the response and the willingness by various parties that I've just mentioned to be a part of this initiative, and I look forward to very positive things in terms of addressing the issues on cyanobacteria. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay. Did I hear a question or no? Okay. I do want to do a follow-up to a comment or a response to a question, I should say, that was given at the last regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting relative to the savings of the reduction of hours for the solid waste facility. We had another citizen contact both Scott and myself, actually, questioning the information that that we provided at that time. And as you recall, we had said it's roughly $10,000 savings. I had not gone back and looked at the assumptions and the derivation of how the original hourly reduction suggestions were done at that meeting. And after this other individual questioned that $10,000 figure, the individual indicated that he recalled it was $7,000 that was initially described as the savings. And after that, and some additional discussions with Scott, and then some follow-up discussions after I did go back with Scott, I want to describe a little bit more detail of that number and make a correction on the actual amount. I did go back to the 2015 budget process in which the Board of Selectmen and subsequently the Budget Committee, but dealing here only with the Board of Selectmen, addressed the hourly reduction and went back into the detail of how that number was derived. And it turns out that it wasn't even $7,000. The original number in 2015, which was approved for the 2016 budget, was a total of $6,398.67. And how that came about was an hourly rate of $10.95 with a bi-weekly total hour reduction of 16, 2 people, 4 days, etc., 2 weeks. For a total annual wage savings of $4,555, and then you have to have FICA and Medicare, and then there was, and all of that, which equals $4,900, and then there was some supervisory overtime pay that's a savings of about $1,050, and then there was some additional part-time summer pay of $445 for a total of $6,398.67. The assumptions we made when we did the number that we described on April 20th were not the same assumptions that we had done in 2016. So I went back and did the 2017 calculations in the same, using the exact same assumptions that were made in the 2016 analysis, but 2 changes. One is I increased the rate of pay because since that time we had a change in their wage rates. So it went from $10.95 to $11.30, and then I did a subsequent percentage, 2% or something increase, equivalent percentage increase for the supervisory overtime pay and the part-time savings amount. And so that, it went from $6,398.67 in 2016 to the figure that now we're using exactly the same assumptions, exactly the same approach of $6,581.21. So that's the savings here. Okay? Any questions of the board or anybody else?
So, I know that there have been some residents that would like to see the solid waste facility open earlier. As a convenience, I do know people heading out of town to work do like to stop on their way to work, and not have to worry about getting back to town before closing time. So if we looked at 2 days a week, let's say Saturday and Sunday, which I would imagine are the heaviest usage days, opening at 7. I know we would not be saving as much, however, for the convenience of the residents, I think it would be something to consider.
I would go along with that consideration for the inconvenience of the change. It doesn't seem as if it's that much savings for what we're asking.
If I used the rationale that you were using, however, I would think it would be Friday and Monday that change would be, not Saturday and Sunday.
Well, maybe we can ask the managers
What are
of
the
that
biggest days?
facility what days they would suggest. I'm sure they would know which are the heaviest usage days.
I use, since my retirement, I use Monday,
Do you?
and it's very busy. It surprises me. is. But anyway, I would agree, I think it might be wise to look again at the change in time.
My only concern with doing the 2 days is that now you have different opening times, for, you know, and that makes for some confusion.
May I speak to this?
Yep, the chair will recognize Richard.
Thank you.
You were part of that process.
Yes, and of course it didn't initiate with the selectmen necessarily. The selectmen are asked to cut $100,000 out of the budget by the budget committee. So this is
Well,
really
that was, just a correction here.
history.
That wasn't the budget committee, that was a combination of the joint meeting between the Board of Selectmen and the budget.
David Curry initiated and said, I want to cut
We would definitely, go
$100,000
ahead.
out of the budget. We said we would see what we could do to come up with that, more if possible. And so the selectmen made recommendations of what we could do. Carter's the one that helped us put together this idea of, he said, let's take something from every one that you possibly can. And that's why this was pushed back. The only other thing I can think of you want to do when you're looking at your calculation is see if it doesn't reach a tipping point, you know what I mean? When you say, okay, that one more hour, all of a sudden, well, do you have to hire another person for even more hours than that? Because it's not attractive enough to hire him for 4 more hours. Because you have Leo down there who has a limited number of hours that he can put in. But he, I think, wants all the hours he can get. So that's something to be cognizant when you're doing your homework.
The example you used, however, he wasn't exceeding the number of hours in the prior one, so I don't think he'd exceed the ones here. But
I didn't hear you.
on the example you used, he was not exceeding his required number of hours or a limited number of hours when it was open the other full 4 hours. So I don't think increasing it by 2 would exceed that. But
I don't remember, I'm just saying.
You also have additional staff in that.
Chair will recognize Mr. Panjo.
Ken Fandor, 280 Kings Highway. I had one thing, you said something about opening at 7. If they adjusted it and opened at 8 in the morning, they could do the complete 4 days. It still comes out to the same dollar amount, rather than that extra 2 hours per Saturday, 2 hours on Sunday, 1 hour, because it used to be open at 8 a.m.
Right.
That was their hours, it was excellent.
And I think you have someone there now at 8. It's just a matter of adding
They don't
the
open.
part-time person. That's right, it's not open, but there's someone there.
The part-timer position was not filled last year.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's aware of it, but the part-time position never got filled. And as far as I know, it hasn't been this year so far.
So I'd like to make a motion that we ask for a review of the hours at the solid waste facility, increasing the available hours by 4 hours per week, and ask for recommendations from solid waste facility.
I'll second that.
So you're suggesting 4 hours, go back to what it was, in other words, no savings on solid waste at all?
From the comments that we have received from the public, I think that the $6,500 that we are saving on that, I think is well spent on a little bit of convenience.
At the risk, I get it, I appreciate the public input, but at the risk of challenging that a little bit, I'm aware of only 2 comments.
I have heard from other people, maybe they don't make it public.
Okay.
And I myself would like it. I mean, if I'm heading out of town, I have to be on my way to wherever I'm going before 9 p.m.
What you're asking for is it to be looked at,
Looked at.
and come back with a recommendation by whom?
Manager of the solid waste facility.
Okay, we have a supervisor who's responsible for overall that area. So I would suggest maybe the supervisor and the TA get together. Does that fulfill your motion? Okay. I mean, what you're asking for is just take a look at it, ask for the recommendations based on what they see of their full, usage, who people would come in and part-time at. Okay. All right. I was a little bit surprised in the 4 hour versus the 2 hour, because as I said, using the rationale that we had developed, I thought it'd been 2 hours, and I thought it'd been Friday and Saturday, sorry, Friday and Monday, but you're looking for the full 4 hour,
Well,
Change.
it's 1 hour per day.
that's 4 hours,
Yeah.
4 hours per.
So I was talking about rolling it back to 7 AM on Saturday and Sunday, or whatever 2 days we're busiest. So either way, it's 4 hours.
Yeah, but that's, what you're doing is saying, you're wiping out that cost savings,
Well, we
basically.
can look at it.
It would not be budgeted, you recognize that, right?
We can look at it, and if it's based on what comes back from their review, maybe there are 2 days that,
Or maybe there's ways to
Or
handle it
leave
where
it.
there isn't that's a bunch of cost savings, that's
Mhm.
true. All right, I'll go along with that, all right. I just would ask for a very analytical approach to that
Mhm.
process. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Again, we look for recommendations, at which time we then would make any action that would be appropriate. Okay, any other comments on that? Okay. We are at the public input session. Okay, we'll recognize Mr. Randall.
Clayton Randall, Old Bay Road. I'd like to speak on, in reference to the community room name, if you're gonna bring up.
You know that is on the agenda, right?
Right, that is on the agenda. I don't know if I should speak now or then or whatever, but I'll speak now.
You're welcome to speak on public input, and during the discussion, it may be that we would recognize it, but you're welcome to speak on public input.
I would like the select board to consider keeping the name of the Nelson Room, only because a bunch of us feel that Chief Nelson did the most for the town in reference to first ambulance, first rescue. He bought the first ladder truck with his own money. He did the senior dinners every Christmas at the Foxy. He also put together the Thanksgiving baskets. Again, I'm not trying to demote any of our selectmen. I've served under Chief Bickford when I was in the middle 70s. I've lived in town since 76, paid taxes since 76. I've been in town since I was about.
We won't go back that far.
I won't go into that. But again, I'm not trying to demote anybody. I think people like Terry, that's been on the fire department, Rod was a big influence to what they became. I've talked to past chiefs. They think that he did more for the fire department than anybody. And that's the only reason I think we should retain the name.
Okay. All right, thank you for the input. Anybody else on public input?
Yes.
Mr. Bickford.
Thank you. David Bickford, 183 Brackett Road. These are for you folks to pass out, please.
And what do we have?
These are, well, I'll speak to them. There's a town meeting, a couple of town meeting, and another one is the fire department. And their size issue. Now, it is my understanding that the Public Works Director, road agent, was dismissed from his employment with New Durham on or around March 23rd, 2017. Yet there is no public record of any changes to Public Works or Highway Department. Rod, you said before being appointed as selectman, you wanted more transparency. How do you feel about this lack of transparency? You don't have to answer me now. But.
Well, you asked me the other night.
Yeah.
I really wasn't privy to any of this.
You should be.
Well, I wasn't.
No, but you should be by now. We'll talk about
I only
that.
know that he's just been dismissed.
Huh?
I only know that he's been dismissed.
All right, but there's nothing in a public record that anybody would know that. Generally, you come out and say, let people know what's happened. You weren't there, so far.
I want to caution,
I'm
I
not
want to caution
finished.
both the public speaker and the board to be careful because you careful what can be done publicly versus non-publicly, and the speaker is well aware of some of those issues, so proceed.
Hey, in 2007, the people at the town meeting voted to have 7 full-time employees at a highway department. We are now down to 4 full-time highway department staff. A 43% decline in full-time staff, leaving us 57% staff, based on that reference point. That's what I left you right there in front of you on the first page, is that warrant article in 2007. In 2006, the year before, the police was at 5 full-time officers. Presently, that's on your second page, by the way. Presently, a 20% decrease with plans to increase to 100% based on the recent budget committee's decision. That's 2006 approved staffing level. Presently, you're at 80%. Like I said, with the plan to go to 100%. The fire department, on your third page, the selectmen set their they call it regulations, at least the selectmen have. But that's your roster there, which you'll see I highlighted. The fire department runs about 49% below its approved staff level. This department is all part-time, so that's the difference between the fire department and the other 2 departments I spoke to. Now, Cecile, since you made a great deal of commotion about staffing levels over the years and the will of the people approving these staffing decisions, what is your plan? This is something you asked me before, particularly for the Public Works Department, Highway Department, with the largest department budget. What is the plan?
Recognizes public input.
I do.
Okay. But the fact that no one knew this, what if somebody wanted to go out and do a petition to bring it back? What if somebody wanted to do a protest? They wouldn't know to do those things. Now, I feel the full-time staffing level should be maintained and tested for a while at the present level. I think I'm happy with what I'm seeing. This is where I plan on going.
Can I ask you to repeat that last sentence?
I feel full-time staffing level should be maintained and tested at their present level.
Well, no, there's a difference with what you presented, and I'm not necessarily looking for a question and answer thing here. Your point earlier was there were various town meetings from 2006 to 2007, and then fire department authorization. I'm not sure when these were done, but and that's I don't know that we've ever had 35 numbers. But then you made a comment about percentage of staffing levels. Are you calling the current levels full present staffing levels, or are you calling the ones that are described here the full staffing levels?
Well, as you know, we had a number of people coming to us to tell us that we needed to follow the warrant articles, which I pointed out, no, you don't. Because these are 10 years old. And we've had improvements since then, computers, et cetera. So I think you need to test the waters before you just go on.
So what you're asking is public input, and your time is somewhat limited here, but what you're asking, just for clarification, is that you're asking to need this present staffing levels to remain as they are without any increase as a test. Is that what I'm understanding it as public input? Okay, good.
Now, if I may finish, where I was
Well,
stopped.
you are time limited.
I was stopped.
I understand that, and I'm allowing a little bit of that.
Yeah, I won't be in another minute.
Okay.
Mr.
The
Chairman,
appointment,
are we still limited to 5 minutes?
I've already covered that. Please, audience.
the
Go
appointment,
ahead.
the appointment policy was not followed for the appointment of Selectman Doherty. I think you should have done the nomination for that one as well as any others that you are doing. Selectman officio to planning board needs to be voted on based on the minutes that I looked at. You haven't taken that vote for Rod to go on. You should make it official by taking a vote.
To go on what?
And
No. To
it
go
it
on-
looked like you hadn't taken an official vote to go out on the planning board. You should revisit those to make sure
Okay.
you've done it officially. And please, if the selectmen, this outside of yourself, Chairman, put your telephone numbers published on the website. Would you do that? Cecile?
This is not a direct, just your request is noted.
Mike, oh, okay, good enough. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other public input?
Terry Jarvis from Main Street. I plan to wait until the talk came up on the agenda, but Clayton's already spoken about the name of the community room. Going back in history, when the fire company named the room, they were informed at that time by the Board of Selectmen that they did not have the authority to name the room, that belonged to the board. From that time on, the board always referred to it as the community room. I worked under Rod for many, many years. He was probably one of the best fireground commanders I've ever seen. I've also worked under other chiefs that had other skill sets in different areas that were outstanding. I believe the room, if it is not going to remain as the New Durham Community Room, I believe the room should be named the New Durham Fire Chief's Room and do what many other fire departments do in honor of past chiefs, is that they actually have pictures of past chiefs with plaques identifying their length of service as chief. And they're on view for everybody at all times.
Just to clarify, the current name is the New Durham Fire Station Community Room.
I missed it being switched.
Yeah. Well, it was switched in a prior Board of Selectmen last year. Okay. But the official current name is the New Durham Fire Station Community Room. And we'll cover, suggestions when we get to that level of the agenda. Any other public input? If not, we'll close the public input. I do see that we have our request. Yes? So again, this is one of the more pleasurable activities for the board. Well, at least in my opinion. Just for the purpose of the public, recently, let me go back and give a little bit of background. Over the last 8 to 12 months, New Durham has hired 2 new police officers, both of them requiring police academy experience and passing, and then coming on for field training, etc. The prior board didn't officially really recognize the prior one, which we will do tonight briefly after we've done this, but we more recently had a graduate from the police academy who was joined officially, well, he was official before, but is fully academy trained and passed, and not only that, I understand, did extremely well in the academy, and was in the very upper levels of the class, and I'm going to let Sergeant Reedy describe that if it's public, but I won't go further than just to have the public recognize that this is a very strong police academy graduate from the point of view of his performance. I wanted to have him come, I wanted both officers to come, I wanted him to come up, if you would come up, Officer Young. Again, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
On an excellent job at the academy. Welcome to the Durham's police force. I know you've been on for a little while.
Yeah,
But I appreciate it. We look forward to your service.
thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Reggie, I'm going to ask you if you want to comment any further than what I've had.
Not really. We're glad to have him. We're proud of the job that he did at the academy, and we're looking forward to him wrapping up his field training and hitting the road, so to speak.
Cool. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just for, you might want to stay by, Reggie, you might want to stay by for one little more action here.
Oh, sure, yeah.
As part of our process, once a police officer hire has completed successfully the academy. There is a pay change. And we have before us a personal action form, so I would look for a motion for that action.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the personal action form, increasing the pay rate of Officer Young to $18.38 per hour.
I have a second.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, it is carried 3-0. And again, congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, folks. Thank you.
Do a safe night, guys.
Thanks.
And just for the public point of view, the other officer who I hoped to have here, but he wasn't available because of his scheduling and all of that, is Officer Griffin. And he graduated January, I think, December. Came on in January for his field officer training. And as the board, we did not recognize it at that time, but I do want to publicly recognize him also at this time. So thank you, Officer Griffin, for your graduation of the police academy, and look for your service. Okay. Your agenda review, I have 4 things that I would like to add. All except one of them, or 2 of them, I guess, are pretty straightforward. One is NHMA update for the data on their system for the town. Another one is, and this I have to recognize Selectman Chase, I think, for this idea, but there was a suggestion that we have, and I've arbitrary coffee with the town, but you can call it whatever you want, with the idea, and we'll talk a little bit more, just add coffee with the town as the agenda item. We'll talk more about that when we get to that. And then under, both of those I think are under new business, and then further under new business, a very quick budget review. And then a DPW seasonal situation, which I don't think Dave Bickford knew we were going to do that at the time he made his comments, but we have some ideas on some activity that we need to do on the DPW side. So those are my agenda suggested changes. Anybody else have any other? Okay.
What did you comment on?
DPW, Department of Public Works.
Oh.
Okay. With that, then I have one other requested change for the sequence of the agenda. It's been requested that we move under new business item number 6C to before the town's administrative report, and so we will do that. 7. Sorry, 7. I said 6. I'm sorry. 7C. Roman numeral 7C, which is the committee and commission appointments. So a little bit of background here. We made a variety of nominations for appointments to a variety of committees, including Parks and Rec, Ethics and Safety, and capital improvement, etc. And so we would like to make those official under this section. So let's cover in the order the agenda has them. Cover the ethics first. So we'll look for a motion. We need to take each member separately because some may require abstaining, etc. Take ethics first.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we appoint Dorothy Wiesel to the Ethics Committee.
I'll second that. To expire 10/18, by the way. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's carried 3-0.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Joan Swenson to the Ethics Committee
Just hold on.
with a term to expire in 2019.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? I will abstain. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Like I said, I will abstain, so that's carried 2-0 with one abstention.
I would like to make a recommendation to appoint Carol Allen to the Ethics Committee with a term to expire in 2018.
I could correct that to a motion.
Make a motion.
Okay. I'll second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, it is carried 3-0. And one other?
Yep, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Ellen Phillips to the Ethics Committee with a term to expire in 2020.
I'll second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, it is carried 3-0. Okay, next on the agenda is capital improvement program. There are 2 at-large members.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Teresa Jarvis.
Sorry, before you do that, if I may, or I apologize. I made a note here beside this. I would like the board to consider, before we go into this, perhaps making this a staggered term to eventually get to a 3-year at-large appointment with a rotating at-large. In other words, one would come off and someone would be appointed, or that person reappointed 1 year, and then the other one similarly. To do that, might want to suggest one person be a 2-year and one person be a 1-year. We would probably have to go a motion for the CIP to be a 3-year appointment committee first, because I think traditionally it's been 1 year. I don't know if it's been official or not. But even if it is not, I would probably want a motion to make it a 3-year, eventually a 3-year term, with the first appointments now being 1 a 2-year, 1 a 1 year. We have not spoken to either one of the at-large. This is when I was reading the packet for preparation for tonight. I made a note here that this might be a better way to work it so that we have some continuity. The potential for a variety of other representations on the CIP, from Planning Board, Board of Selectmen, Budget Committee, could be different each year. And what the at-large does is provide a little bit of continuity to the committee to allow that potential change from the representations of the other board, just for the public's information. The CIP current representations from the other boards are Dot Vizel from Planning Board, Ellen Phillips from the Budget Committee, and Cecile Chase from the Board of Selectmen. 2 at-large are currently, and their understanding when they volunteered was likely for the 1-year piece. I understand that. We've not talked about 2-year to either one of them. One of them happens to be here. Unless the person wants to volunteer, I don't want to put that person on the spot. But I would suggest that we look at one being a 2-year and one being a 1-year, and then rotate, eventually into a 3-year appointment, so that, I guess, not this year, next year, the 1-year person might either be reappointed or somebody else might be appointed for 3 years, and now you have, the protection starting. Chair will recognize Terry Jarvis.
Terry Jarvis, I've had been on the CIP committee, having served on it in various capacities. I would strongly encourage you to have more than a 1-year term for the members at large. It is difficult when you have a committee where 4 out of 5 members are all brand new because of the learning curve that goes on. I would ask you to consider, instead of doing a 2-year and a 1-year term, that you do a 3-year term and a 2-year term. And I can't speak for the other applicant, but I would be happy to commit to either the 2-year or the 3-year term. I think the continuity is there, and the need for all people to understand the role of the CIP in the long-range process versus what is the role in the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen in long-range planning. And there's two totally different levels of responsibility.
I certainly can see the logic in those staggered positions. I'd just like to know if there's any restrictions in the guidelines of the formation of CIP that would specify what those terms
That's
are.
actually a question I'm gonna have, and probably have to go on institutional memory here. We have two, members of the former boards of selectmen. This was established by a former board of selectmen. It wasn't a warrant article, it was established by a former board of selectmen.
No,
Pardon?
Yes.
So we have a difference of opinion.
CIP was done as a warrant article.
That's the question. And was it established for 1 year or 3?
The warrant
It's-
article established the Advisory Capital Improvement Program Committee,
Which this is.
which this is. The Board of Selectmen, or Assembly Board at that time, established the one-year term.
That was my understanding, but I wanted to, as I said, there's some institutional knowledge that I wanted to call on here, so. So then the Board of Selectmen would have the authorization to change the length of term if it so chose.
Well, I'm not sure of the protocol there, but should we get advice from the CIP as it exists now? Or should they meet and then come back and say to us, yes,
No.
we all
No.
want them?
Well, this is, the CIP actually doesn't exist, except, in fact, it doesn't exist yet because we have to take the action from the
I
plan.
get you.
So actually, the CIP doesn't exist yet, in terms of its constituted members. It doesn't exist, but not its members.
They basically dissolved with their final report.
Right.
If I may expand on
Yep.
Terry's, I
Chair will
don't
recognize David Pickard.
Thank you. I don't recommend going longer terms necessarily. I think you should have the people on it reflect your positions. And if you want the same person the next year, you can assign them the next year. And if you want someone else to represent your positions, then you can do that. Nothing wrong with that. Now, I'm speaking differently than what you're talking about, staggering. I'm speaking to what Derek was talking about.
I understand that. We philosophically, I think, differ a little bit. I don't want necessarily people that reflect my position. I want people who are qualified and able to look at it from a very independent, neutral point.
It should reflect
But we differ.
the board.
But that's okay. So, the issue here is there an interest to change the the limits of time, for the appointment? And if so, would you like to do that now, or do you want to hold that off and then take care of it later, and just do the appointments?
I think I'd like to talk about it a little bit.
Okay?
I like both suggestions, that's the thing. I can see Dave's point, and I also like the idea of continuity being sort of confirmed with an individual, so they're not sure each year whether they're gonna be there for the next year.
And we can come back and revisit the appointments if they're short. So I would ask, Scott, if you would put this on for the next agenda,
Okay.
and so we can take care of it at that point. So under that scenario, the current appointments would be for the one-year term, subject to potential changes as we would talk and make any changes. Okay, so now we look for a motion.
So, we're gonna hold off on those appointments?
No,
Or we'll go
I would like,
forward?
I'll
Okay.
explain, well,
All right.
why I'm asking not to is the following. I was gonna do it after the appointments, but we'll do it now. Historically, the CIP has done work starting oftentimes in September, finishing up oftentimes in November, December. For me, because of our budget process, and to a certain extent, somewhat because of SB2, but it's really goes much farther than that. I'd like to see that whole process moved up about 3 months, so that we would start the CIP roughly mid-June, and end its works roughly end of August, first week of September, somewhere in that period of time. At that point, the report then would go to, it's normal process, the planning board for its review and comments and whatever, and then come to the select board. That might take about a month or a month and a half, which puts us roughly in mid-October or early November. Again, that's about the right time where we would start to consider capital equipment, so I think the timing there would be much more favorable. And it gives also a time for, you know, the department heads to work that process as well, and not have it all cramped into just the budget process of the operational side of it. So, any questions on that? That's why I'm suggesting moving it up.
If I may,
Okay.
once again, the trick with that is the CIP committee is often saddled with, well, what is it the selectmen and budget committee want? You know, to give them direction. In other words, they need direction from the budget committee and selectmen to know what direction they're going in, so then they'll make their decisions. Like new capital reserve fund, what kind of equipment are you gonna keep? Are you gonna go in another direction? That sort of thing. And that's what happened in the past.
I understand the philosophy. I may not fully agree with it, but I understand it because from a business side, as I said, my view would be to have, this is the capital equipment that would be required, or capital or ETF, that would be required to operate under the scenario of perceived need and prior planning. Subject to change. Keep in mind the planning board, select board also review this process or this document, which can then reflect more what their philosophies are. But the CIP should be, I think, a resource which utilizes the various skill sets, and hopefully they're diverse in terms of their thought process, so that they're also able to compromise and come up with a consensus that presents a document of you know, a more full addressing of all capital needs. So, anyway, that's why. Long about reason, but that's why.
Okay, rather than make appointments tonight for a year and then coming back in 2 weeks and discussing it and then changing those appointments, I'd rather just wait till our next selectmen's meeting to discuss it.
I'd like to move ahead, but so, you're the deciding consensus.
I think personally, I just would go ahead and appoint them. I think that probably there's enough agreement, even from those who are present, that if it's 2 years, that's fine. Or if we went to 1, 2, 3, it seems like. So I think I'd like to get that done. So let's make the appointments tonight.
Okay.
I favor that. And again, I think there's time when we go back at it.
And even if we
I'm not
put it off
convinced
another
that
year.
that decision is going to be finalized in one discussion, but it could be. And I don't want to hold up the work, trying to move it forward in the year. So that's why I'm advocating. So having said that, I'll make a motion to appoint Bill Meyer to the Capital Improvement Committee as a member at large, with current term to expire on 2018, subject to any revisions that the select board would do in subsequent discussions.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, it's carried 3-0. I'll make a motion to appoint Terry Jarvis as a member at large for a term to expire 2018, subsequent to any future decisions that the board of selectmen may have in terms of term time, if you will.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It is carried 3-0. Okay. And next is Parkland.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Dorothy Vizel as a commissioner for the Parks and Rec Commission with a term to expire in 2018.
Do I have a second? I'll second. Oh, sorry. No,
I'll second.
no? Okay. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It is carried 3-0.
I'll make a motion to appoint Patricia Luckhern as a commissioner for the Parks and Rec Commission with a term to expire in 2019.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? It's carried 3-0.
I'll make a motion to appoint Douglas Perkins as a commissioner for the Parks and Rec Commission with a term to expire in 2020.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It's carried 3-0.
I'll make a motion to appoint Andrew Hernandez as a commissioner for the Parks and Rec Commission with a term to expire in 2019.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It's carried 3-0.
I'll make a motion to appoint Mark Detremont as a commissioner for the Parks and Rec Commission with a term to expire in 2020.
Second? I'll second that. You didn't second.
No, that's correct.
Okay, I'll second that. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It is carried 3-0. And I think that's the complete list of that. There are signatures here, we'll pass around here shortly. I think that's the full list of those for, yeah, correct? Okay. Okay. We'll go back up and do the agenda as its sequence is now. So town administrator's report.
Okay, first item that I have on the report is a request to do a extension to the paving contract from 2016 with F.I. Carroll Inc. out of Limerick, Maine. I've prepared a memo for the board, which is explaining that the 2016 contract allowed for it to be extended for 2 additional years should the contractor be willing to use the 2016 bid prices as base prices, and then using the New Hampshire Department of Transportation liquid asphalt escalator for the purposes of determining the tonnage prices. Currently, that will, as I've indicated in my memo, right now, based upon the liquid asphalt prices, would add about $1.70 to the current bid price. Which
Per ton.
Per ton, which is the 2016 price for machine method asphalt application was $56.40. That would increase it to $58.10. That is as of the April, when I get the April figure, and which is about $1.70, which is still below any of the 2016 bid prices that were bid at that time, even with the asphalt escalator increase. This would be for like termed work, not to exceed the total budget amount of last year's contracted amount of $285,000, which was in fact the amount which had been, it was $285 and change, but it's $285,068, I believe. So we'll just put it at $285,000 at this time, and that the final work would be determined by the Public Works Department and myself, and then submitted to the Board of Selectmen for finalization. We hope to have that for you for May 18th for the roads for current treatment.
When we indicated we would not be able to do all of the road work in 2016 and carried it over encumbered and all that, we did not lock in the materials price at that time for that action.
I believe, and I'll have,
It was a question, not a statement, by the way.
yeah, I mean, I'd have to go back and look at the contract, and I'd have to talk with the contractor. I don't think that we had any discussion that we would, because we bid that late in the season.
Right.
And we did write as the term of the contract was that if it wasn't completed, that we would carry the money forward
Right.
into
We
2016.
encumbered the money. The question is, did we lock in the material price at that time?
So we locked it in under the 2016 bid, so I think in fair business, personally myself, is that if in fact, you know, the product costs more and you've gone into the next year, you know, he may hold the price for the 2016 work, which if I remember right, was about $112,000, give or take, that is carried over to finish the work at Kings Highway on that. I did not have that discussion with him about the 2016 work that way, but I've seen it. My past experience in Wolfeboro was that the escalator was part of the contract and it went into a different calendar year.
So, the 2017 is stands by itself for
Right.
that year. The question has to only do that's carried over from 2016,
2016.
which is, what, about a third of what that total was? In other words, wasn't it something
Yeah, it's,
over,
it's about a third.
yeah, something under 300 if I remember,
Right.
in that ballpark.
Yeah, it's 285.
Yeah,
So,
so there may be a portion of it that could be affected by the lock-in price for 2016. Yeah, I would work that angle, quite frankly, because it's an agreement, provided it was locked in. But, 2017 price is the 2017 price, so.
yeah, and I mean, by using the asphalt, escalator, I think it, is fair across the board. Somebody gives you a base price. And then for continuous years of work, if they're willing to maintain the base price on the base bid and utilize the escalator, generally, my experience has been during a 3-year window, that has actually worked, worked well.
It works to the town's advantage.
Yes.
Mutual advantage.
Yeah, well, I can,
Both, one's assured of some work and the other's assured of a price that's lower than what might be.
if you had bids that were far closer, then I would, you may look at it differently.
I mean, I looked at the 2016 bids.
Yeah.
There was a significant variance. And I would have been concerned that they would not have been able to satisfy the contract based on the variance in the bid, but if they performed.
Oh, yeah. No issues on the performance side of things.
Yeah.
Other than it was late in the season and, it kind of put a crunch on everybody, highway in preparation for the road segments. By locking in now, it puts us actually potentially into, you'd really like to know now the commitment so he can help set schedule, which will help out for highway in doing their preparations for the roads segments that will be selected. And realistically, we won't be able to start those till in and around, I would guess around the first part of June. I mean, right now, they're cleaning cemeteries and doing other things, so there's preparation from winter into spring, leap year that we've made, so. But I will get a clarification relative to the 2016 work carryover.
Okay.
When you say carryover, are you talking about
So,
the cost or the actual work?
yeah, so what ended up happening is, we had work that was already laid out and prescribed, but could not be completed due to the winter months coming upon us. So they shut down, and those monies were encumbered, or carried forward to be applied towards completion in the spring, which they're ready to do. I mean, they would do them now. We haven't got the road segments ready to.
Will that delay the 2017 work?
I'm sorry?
Will that delay
No.
the 2017 work?
No, I mean, it'll actually probably be all done in concert, as far as putting everything together, putting that work together. This would be the third year now, second or third year that I think the third year, right, Donnie, that this same company has been successful bidder. They've bid in the last 2 years individually, and they were a successful bidder on those 2 occasions, and they've been very satisfied with the work. It's the same company that I utilize in Wolfeboro as well, and the successful bidders there, and we're using multi-year contracts as well.
Okay. So are we ready to move ahead then with the motion?
I mean, I would like to have a motion from the board to, have us put together a document for your review and signature. and we would draft something to that effect, with that language in there.
Just to clarify here now, we have a 2016 work which is already agreed to, which would now be done this year.
Mhm.
And then we will have 2017 work, what you're saying is extend the 2016 bidding situation because of that carryover and some continuation there. But recognize that for that 2017 work, there would be an escalator of $1.70 per ton on that.
Correct.
So I think that's.
I wouldn't use that, say the $1.70 amount. I would say it is in accordance with.
No, I understand, yeah, I understand that
DOT.
part, I'm just, from the public's point of view on the cost situation. The key piece, which you very appropriately and accurately described, is that under that scenario, it's still less than any of the other bids for 2016, which I think is the
Quite a
key
bit.
here.
Quite a bit less.
The last one isn't all that much less. It's, you know, you have to look at the per ton stuff.
Mhm,
You know, all the rest of the stuff, yes, but
Yeah.
you have to look at the materials piece of it.
mhm.
But it's still less, even so. So I'm okay, you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll look for a motion then.
All right, I'll make a motion that we direct, tell me if I'm wrong, because we've talked a little in
Yeah.
circles here. Direct the town administrator to create a document,
I think this is what you're looking for.
okay, to extend the 2016 paving contract for an additional 1 year as outlined within the 2016 paving contract. Said asphalt tonnage prices to be contingent upon New Hampshire DOT asphalt liquid escalator, and to furthermore authorize an amount of $285,000 for such pavement preservation work to be determined and submitted for final approval by the Board of Selectmen on May 18th, 2017. Thank you.
That covers what you're trying to do, right?
Yes.
So do you have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? It is carried 3-0. So you're able to now move forward, not only with 2016 carryover work, but also move forward to 2017, which you'll define at our next Board of Selectmen meeting, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna, hopefully tomorrow, spend a little bit of time, with the highway supervisory group there to, look at that. We've spent some time on the roads already and looking at them and really focusing more on the pavement preservation side of things, this year, in utilization of the money until we can do a road surface management study, hopefully through the, planning commission.
Okay. Next item, Scott?
Okay, so the next item is a request to sign and apply for an application, certification, and agreement with the federal surplus property group, which is run through the state of New Hampshire Department of Administrative Services surplus distribution section down in Concord. So people also know it as a white farm. That's where all people's, at least all the state surplus equipment goes as well. And towns and cities can also deposit items there, and it's auctioned off once a year. This division also handles the any federal surplus equipment that comes available to the state at very low cost for municipalities for their use for municipal work. In the past, municipalities have been able to purchase payloaders, forklifts, trucks, other types of vehicles that the military decommissions, and basically the cost to the municipality is the transportation cost for getting the vehicle physically to New Hampshire. For an example, before I left in Wolfeboro, we were seeking a 10-wheel dump truck as a fleet vehicle. In that situation there, I was able to get a all-wheel drive 10-wheel tractor, basically, or chassis, for $28,000. It came from Germany, had 3,000 miles on it. It was a 2009 Freightliner, and we upfitted that and saved the town of Wolfeboro just over $100,000, as it would be to go out and purchase a brand new vehicle. So we have some vehicles that, for an example, at the transfer station, they are really in need of a payloader. at that facility for their operations. And this may be a mechanism if in fact one became available and it was within the range of acceptability for that purchase. It may be a very low-cost purchase for a very good piece of equipment, well-maintained piece of equipment. So it also allows for example, if the police department needed some piece of equipment that was being surplused by the federal government that they could pick up as well, or fire department. Fire departments get brush vehicles and firefighting vehicles as well. So.
Okay. All right, so I mean, the point is, I do think it's a positive to be able to access at a very advantageous cost surplus equipment where the town has a need.
Okay, I'll make a motion to enter into a public agency application certification agreement with the Department of Administrative Services surplus distribution section for state and federal surplus property and equipment, and to authorize the department heads as agents to sign for such equipment upon authorization of the Board of Selectmen.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Just quickly, go ahead.
When you mentioned the tender that came from somewhere overseas,
Yes.
How do you check this equipment out before you?
So that it actually, it comes here. So they actually have it at the depot.
So everything's there?
Yeah, so everything's there. They just, there's different price tags for different items. And I'll give you an example. The town of Washington has basically their entire highway fleet is these type of vehicles because they have a lot of dirt roads. They only paid $5,000 for theirs, just because it came from, out in, I think it was New York State, with low mileage. So they got lucky on that one. But there's a fellow that actually operates this, and he gets anything that's coming up on decommission lists, so he knows. And
Gets the list out.
towns let them know what they're kind of looking for at the same time. They just had some forklifts that were there, and they put it out on the bulletin to municipalities that are participants of different things that are available. So.
I just didn't think you'd want to get any of the Jeeps I used to drive, but.
No.
And just again, you have a form for the Department of Administrative Services surplus distribution, in which you've already identified who would have authorization on the town department heads, you and the department heads, basically.
Yep.
And by, this motion already has a motion and second, by passing this, that then would authorize this, and we would sign that, because I assume you have.
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, it is carried 3-0. Thank you.
The other item that I have is an item which was discussed at time of budget and was included in the town administrator or administration budget. That was for us to participate as a member of the Stratford Regional Planning Commission as a member. And I have been given our 2017-2018 dues in the amount of $3,092.07, along with the schedule as to how they do their, come on, but I can't think it's maybe it's on. Did have the schedule as to how they come up with their formula. It is, I had estimated, based upon my discussions with them, budget figure of $3,100, so luckily it came in $7 and some odd cents less, so that was a good thing. And I'm looking for authorization, it's above the amount that I can sign for the authorization of purchase order.
Since the Stratford Regional Planning provides very valuable resource to the town, I'd be happy to make a motion to approve the annual dues of $3,092.07.
I'll second that. Again, I would echo, we have had some good resources for them in a variety of ways, including the planning board, et cetera. So.
Can you just mention the
purchase order
Oh,
number.
purchase order number, let's see, 1981.
And I'll modify the second to include that purchase order. Any further discussion on that?
I guess just a little bit of my professional history, I'm a little skeptical of some of these regional planning organizations. But you both said you think the town has got value.
Yeah, for that dollar amount, because I came from a community that paid considerably more for a different regional planning commission. For that dollar amount, I think that the type of services that we'll be seeking and being able to utilize abroad, I think will have a value for that dollar amount for our dues. We're looking at the road surface management study that they can hopefully look to us as a returning and new member back to the group and looking at us favorably to do that under this umbrella as well. And then any support to both ZBA and planning. I think with the activities that I'm seeing starting to occur now with ZBA and planning, I think it's a good situation for us. If not, for those technical services that we need, we have to pay on an a la carte situation. So that's another factor that comes in. This way, at least we're able to get it under this umbrella fee.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It's carried 3-0. Let's see. I've lost my
HB 29.
Okay, so the next item that you have in your packet is I've put together a draft resolution, and this was.
Let me
Yeah,
cover
go
this
ahead.
one. Let me cover this one a little bit. As we've said in multiple Board of Selectmen meetings, the state has now passed a law for those towns that postpone their election in March. And there is a process. A town's not obligated to do it, but in my opinion, it is something that I think that Durham should be doing. To hold a public hearing, to ratify basically the various warrant articles and things like that that were part of the vote. The state laws, and I'm paraphrasing and summarizing here, the state laws currently has ratified all of the elected officials. So there's nothing that the town needs to do relative to verifying, ratifying, and doing anything else for the elected official piece of it. But they are suggesting that as part of the state law to have a public hearing, and then the select board would take an official action based on that input, whether to ratify or not ratify the vote on the various warrant articles, etc. And I think the original bill had something on the order of May 23rd as the final date that could occur. What we're suggesting, I think, is a public hearing on May 18th at the next regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen. We'd probably open with that public hearing to hear any public input relative to that subject that we've just described. Based on that input, the Board of Selectmen would then take its action as it so chose. So I think that summarizes it. So
Yeah.
looking for a public hearing, probably as a first order of business for the May 18th public session at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, so we'll get that posted.
We may have an earlier session, non-public, but this is the official public section at 9 o'clock, at 7 o'clock, sorry.
That's yours. So we'll be, with that window that we're using for our meeting, we'll be in good shape as far as posting times. Basically, when I looked at the state law, It actually only requires the posting, I believe it was for, it actually said, I think 72 hours. In that situation there, so I think there are some communities that are definitely under the time period, so we'll be well in advance of that.
Are you gonna post that before next week, or?
Yes, yeah, my plan was to post it tomorrow,
Yeah, okay.
and at least that way the notices are up and out, and we'll put it on the website, so if anybody has any comment, they can get it to you
Cool.
in regards to that. And then, when you, afterwards, the resolution will in fact be your ratification, and I use this template from, that have been put together from my other colleagues out there that has already gone through the motions to have theirs done.
Okay. Anything else you have, Scott?
That's all I have on the administrative report, other than the agenda items you talked about.
Yeah. All right, going into the new business section, new policies for review. First up is the sale of town property. I actually have several suggested revisions to this, and we can go through it if you wish tonight, or we can, you can send me the electronic version. I can jot it out so you can track changes and see what I have, whatever the board so chooses. But I do have several changes to this.
I just would like to see the changes.
Okay, yeah, that's why I offered the options. I mean, I'll quickly go through them, but I would suggest that Scott sends me the electronic version, I'll do my thing, and he can distribute it out wherever.
Well, your changes may give me some ideas.
Yeah, well,
I think if you review those tonight, Mr. Chairman, then that will allow me to then facilitate the communication ahead of the next meeting.
right. I'll quickly go over them again. I'm kind of gonna go quickly over them, but if I'm going too quickly, stop me. On the first page, middle paragraph, last line, the paragraph starts with town-owned lots. Well, first, blah, blah. Last line starts with lots. I'm suggesting crossing everything out after the word lots. And instead add a price to cover all back taxes, interest, and penalties. You don't have to write it down, I mean, it's up to you, whatever. Skip a paragraph. The selectmen may convey these properties by advertised sealed bids or through an auction process. Add the words "or through an auction process." And then going on, the selectmen shall have the power to establish a minimum amount, if deemed appropriate, comma, for which the property is to be sold in the terms and conditions of the sale. Any proceeds from such sales will be deposited into the general fund, period. Cross out everything until the word addendum. That's my suggested changes for page 1. Page 2. Cross out on the first paragraph, cross out by the 1st of July. Just an annual review. Cross out the whole paragraph that starts with after the selectmen receive. It's about the middle of the page. I'm suggesting no for the whole next paragraph and the one after that too.
You're suggesting what?
No, cross it out.
Cross out
Yeah. However prior,
and the selectmen vote?
yeah.
Okay.
However prior to the selectmen's vote, yeah.
Don't know if you can do that.
Pardon?
Don't know if I mean, there's a state RSA that allows for the residents to be able to,
So we're already covered. Why do you have to have it in there?
oh,
Yeah. I mean, it's already there.
transparency.
Well, transparency is a state law. How transparent can it be? And then cross out the next paragraph.
Is that dictated to us?
What's that?
The 10 to 14 days?
I believe that's, I'll print out the RSA 39:3, but I believe that's within the statute that talks about these time limits that are involved.
But, I mean, all that's part of it. So all you say is it will follow RSA, 49, or 39:3.
Yeah, I think it's okay to, well, we can talk about it, but I think it's okay to leave it in only because if people in the community are gonna see this, then they don't have to go and read the law to
But
Where it's over the details.
so maybe you have
I
parts
know
of law that they want to be put in there too.
No,
so.
they can, but I don't see why we can't just help them by restating what's maybe the obvious to you, but not to them. So that's just,
Again,
that's what our
Yeah,
discussion.
that's fine, I mean, that's what the whole point is.
Yeah.
So again, I'm suggesting crossing out after the selectmen, all the way to is held. And if it's felt that however paragraph should be there, you know, just,
Yeah,
that's
we'll
fine.
talk about it.
That's fine. There were some, I think, punctuations in there. See, selectmen shall adequately advertise the properties to be sold requesting sealed bids or by auction, I think, right? That's okay. And then I cross out the goals to complete a sale by the 1st of December. That's, you know, I cross that out.
Yeah, that can move.
Okay? So that's my suggestion on that.
Okay.
If you send the electronic, I'll give you those. Okay. Next policy is disposal of project byproducts and materials. And I just had 2 questions on this one. First of all, actually 3 questions. And I don't know if anybody else had any other changes. But, disposal of project byproducts and materials. Paragraph number 2 on the first page, I had a question mark besides the, what was it,
Which one was that, sorry?
the number 2.
Number 2?
The question is more operational, and we covered this, I think, on the first one. What you're saying is that you have to have all of this paperwork done before they actually dispose of it. But what happens if, you know, they ran into a ditching that was more excess in materials, but they found somebody quickly, blah, 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 blah. You know,
Right.
you wanna be able to do it, but you don't want it to be that as the way it runs every time either. So that's just a question of, is this operational in your opinion?
Well, I mean, I can tell you that there was, in Wolfeboro, we use this process, and there was a little bit of flex with it because of those type of scenarios. Generally, you know, the town administrator was notified by the public works director and the supervisor that this was a situation and that the person was coming, you know, on a dead run down to the town hall, fill out the paperwork and get it submitted, knowing full well that the board wasn't gonna meet for another 2 weeks. That's the only cumbersome issue with that, or whether or not, you know, the authority is given to the town administrator to sign the actual form for that. The idea is to take it away from, on an ethical issue, is to take it out of the hands of the workers in the field.
Right.
That's the real focus of this type of thing, is to do that, so that there's no issue. And, you know, they got a list, and I showed Donnie, I think the other day, the list that I had, I used to carry in my notebook there, and, you know, he could go right down the list and he'd know, okay, Karen, call these 4 people who are gonna be ditching on this road, see if they can accept the material. So that makes it easy for them.
Yeah.
And we would do a good campaign, but once again, sometimes people don't know until they see the
Right.
trucks rolling, so.
So as I said, the question is operational, can it be done? And do you feel it's workable? You know, I assumed you did since you did it, but I wanted to bring it out.
Right.
So it's probably good.
Yeah.
The same, I mean, both 2 and 3 are the same question,
Right.
okay? And then, you know, I think it's just types, you know, 7, should be 7. Minor detailing.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any comments? I
No.
mean, mine was a minor, pretty minor, it's just, I don't know any other changes. So if nobody has any changes and are willing to move ahead, you entertain a motion.
That's a good idea.
I'll make a motion to approve the disposal of project byproduct and materials policy as amended.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, was carried 3 to nothing. I would, sorry, my error. I would entertain a motion for an effective date. Is that part of the, in there?
Yeah, I have the adoption.
Yeah, but it's a date of adoption, doesn't mean it's effective that date necessarily.
Oh, okay.
I would like to have it as part of the motion.
Sure.
So I will make a motion that the effective date of this be at the time of adoption of May 4th, 2017.
Second.
And the only amendment really is fixing that numeric, and then,
Yeah.
okay, that's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, it's there, it's just not readable.
yeah,
Any further discussion on the effective date? All in favor, say aye.
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 It's carried 3-0. Okay. Next one is the select board operational guidelines. And I had a very brief conversation before the opening of the 5 o'clock public session with Scott.
Would you like my copy?
No, I haven't. I've got some written up on it, so I need to find mine. It's in the stack. I think I put it at the back because there's a lot.
it's a thick one.
There we go. That's it. All right. Anybody have any comments on this?
It's thick.
It's thick.
I'll be
Well-
using it as a guideline.
Again, if you want to go through part by part for my comments,
Go for it.
don't everybody be so enthusiastic here. All right, first page, actually, I didn't have any comments.
What?
That's a bad sign.
Second page, however, mostly pretty minor. Number 4 on the top of the page, I don't think that should be under the first meeting. We should have that just as a separate item. I recognize the note, but I just don't think it should be listed under the first meeting. Just have it as a separate item.
Okay.
I thought the note, the flexibility, I think it was just kind of more of a reference as a guide. I understand.
Just make that as a B and move B to C or something. Or no, actually, be the other way. Make that as a C.
Maybe
It's
it's
just,
just,
yeah, it's an organizational thing, but it's not the first meeting thing. It doesn't go under A. And B, you talk about the first meeting still, so it makes logical sense to go next. So make this as a C.
okay.
And then under A, not Roman numeral 3A1. We have this as a topic, so the date should change on that if we make changes tonight on that particular policy or protocol. So I had the assumption that we were going to make that change, so I changed that instead of August 15th to May 4th, but we'll cover that later. Under 3A4, the chair shall preside over all meetings and shall have the authority to call for a special meeting when deemed necessary. It's implied, but I think you just say it. Yeah, it's implied, but I think you just want to say it.
When he,
When deemed necessary.
deemed
I know it's clear, but sort of, how do you deem it necessary?
Well, it's the chair's decision. Or the,
Well, if he's deeming, he obviously says it's necessary.
as I say, it's implied. I mean, if you think it's not necessary, I understand the
It's not
logic.
a problem.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem
it
with
doesn't
that.
make much difference.
And,
I'll put it in, make them happy.
Let's put it in.
Believe me, that's not the requirement there. B, section B, if it's in there, my suggestion maybe not even have it in it, but if it's in there, make it as an appendix as opposed to a section,
this,
partial list.
the list, the
Yeah.
partial list,
Yeah, it's a big.
I don't have a problem having it maybe as an appendix, but not as part of the main document.
okay.
Because, I mean, you may have left something out that I felt was important, and you may have added something that, you know, we do about once every 45 years or something, you know, whatever.
Should 77 be the we can breathe?
Yeah,
Once you get up to,
yeah, that's sort of.
yeah, that's
I mean,
right.
you know, it's not a bad list, I'm not saying it's a bad list, I'm just saying make it as an appendix or part of
I
that.
like it here.
Yeah. All right, page 5 now, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Under D2, dog 2. Let's see. I'm not comfortable with the wording of this one. Because the select board does indeed have appointment authority over the fire chief. But the select board does not have authority over the personnel operation of the fire department. So I think it needs to be reworded somehow to make sure that's more clear.
The fire chief, I believe RSA is the 151:1. I think. I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah, that's not listed here.
Right.
But what I'm saying is,
Personnel or operations, I think that's different than the fire chief.
I mean, I understand your point. I'm not sure that's as clean a definition as you think it might be. I mean, when I read it, fire department is all its personnel.
Yeah, well, you might want to add in, this is just a suggestion, personnel or operations to exclude the fire chief and put in parentheses that RSA that you just said.
Select board, you know, and specifically the select board does have authorization under RSA,
Yes.
blah, 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 to appoint the fire chief. So if you add that, you know, I think that's a good modification there.
Yep.
Okay. Under 4A, you know, you talk about the town's website and the town hall. We defined where the official, and Terry will remember this too, we defined where the official posting spots were. One was the website, one was the bulletin board, and I think one was the post office, but I'm not sure. Terry, do you remember?
I believe it was outside the post office and the website.
Right. That's
Because
what
I
I
remember
recall.
the discussions.
What, all I'm saying is, make the modification to conform with what we've already defined as the official posting sites here.
Okay.
Okay?
Any idea when that?
It's 2015, because
You were on the board then.
I was on the board,
Yeah.
and I recall you and David Pickford and I were the board members when that was defined.
And
I'm sorry, it was either early 2015
Or 2014.
or probably, yeah, it could have been 2014,
Could have
actually.
been late 2014.
Late 2014 or early 2015, yeah.
Because I voted in opposition to it because I didn't want the website to be an official.
Yeah.
Because not everybody has websites.
But there was 3 spots, so. I think it might have been late 2014 or early 2015. It was before the 2015 election, at any rate. Then a question further into into that same section, with a paragraph that starts with a notice of meeting on page 5, section 4A. Roman number
Oh, the
4A.
sentence that begins with,
With a notice of meeting. It's
Okay.
about 4
Yep,
sentences,
yep, I
4
see it.
lines up.
Yep.
The key point here that is a little bit interesting and needs to be understood, and Scott, you may be able to shed light, and others may as well. I make notes, as an example, of what the actions are so that I can track it. But I don't pass those in. What this does is made available to the public. I'm not sure if we are required to do that.
what, yours are not being compiled to be used for the minutes.
Right.
And that is the out, I agree.
That could be,
See, I use them.
You
in my
use-
review
you
for my
use them-
notes.
you
I
use
go
them.
back to the video and I also occasionally use my notes.
but you're not the creator.
Correct.
So I would say that you.
I'm not the creator of the minutes.
Right. Somebody probably could under the right to know law, if in fact they challenged you in making a change to the minutes based upon your notes. In other words, if you made reference to them and said, according to my notes, that's not what was said or what anybody did, then probably under the right to know, if you continue to retain those, then you could be subject to the right to know law.
And so that's why I'm asking, is that really part of the, this is your grant.
Yeah.
Is that really part of the right to know?
That's my,
Yeah, when I would do it, I would go for anything, everything.
Yeah.
sure.
So I don't know if you can change that.
Well, I'm not sure,
I know what you're trying
I'm not
to
sure
say.
that's accurate. What I guess I'd like is a legal opinion on this, on that section. Okay?
You could try by using the word formal, the formal notes or materials used for writing. But I don't really want to give you any suggestions on how to get around it.
I mean, what I would prefer is to have not the wording there, and it has nothing to do with that, it's just that, I don't wanna make copies every time. First of all, you're welcome to try to read the original.
I was just gonna say, if anybody can read that.
Yeah, you're welcome to try. But, again, I'd like a legal opinion on that. Chair will recognize Terry.
You indicate here that notice of all meetings must be posted at least 24 hours in advance of the meeting. There are some additional wording in 91A that does exclude from the 24 hours Sundays and holidays, which this does not have the exclusion in there. So it might want to be consistent with statute.
Okay, that's earlier, that's the second line of that same section, by the way. So take a look at that relative to,
Yeah, I think the difference is that I'm not working Saturdays and Sundays, so that's probably why, hopefully.
okay. So if you look at those two areas,
Yeah, that's a good thing to include, excluding, they still, in other words, you can't count Saturday and Sunday.
Right.
The other thing, Devin, in the last sentence, in accordance with RSA 91 about the draft minutes should be available, could you insert how soon after a meeting they need to be posted? 72 hours or whatever it is, I forget.
Yeah, it's
I always
tried it in 5 days.
well, I think there are legal requirements, right?
I'm sure
I think there
I'm
are.
sure there is, but.
I know there is.
Yeah, and I would find quite a few organizations would ignore that.
Yeah, I don't think,
And it's-
I know we don't.
Well, it's particularly important because the drafts are usually cited by those who don't want to comply as they're just drafts, and they're not the real minutes.
Right.
But that,
Yeah, like Marlboro, they never put up their finals. They only posted draft on the website. Only for the mere fact is, under the requirements, those stay that way. I would rather just post
I'd rather just post the final.
I would rather just post the
I know,
finals,
but-
not put the drafts
the
up.
problem is that,
You had the 72-hour thing.
well, that would, and what I would hear, and I don't, I'm not assuming this organization was involved, was be that it would extend the amount of time that they'd make the minutes available by saying, well, they're still drafts. And that was what the big
Yeah,
fight.
everything, of course, everything's releasable, so.
But the when, it would be weeks, or we're not going to approve them until our next meeting. Or we didn't approve them at the next meeting, so we'll approve them at the next meeting.
And the drafts, if in fact they've never been approved, they are the final.
That's right.
The other question I had is on, they said be available to the public for how long? In perpetuity?
Yeah, you have to retain them.
So, yeah. But there's three things to look at. One is the 24-hour thing in 91A performance, if you will. One's the no legal opinion. One's the insertion of hours required for minutes to be posted after the meeting. Okay? Page 6. This is interesting because ever since I've been on the board since 2013, and Terry, you may be able to answer before that, we've never signed the minutes.
We've never signed them.
Is that required?
I don't believe so, because you actually, your next, no, in other words, when you vote and authorize your minutes this room, you know, I mean, everything's recorded in
Right.
sequence,
Right.
but in Wolfeboro, they sign every,
Oh, really?
yeah.
So if it's not recorded, I'd suggest taking that out. I mean, it's not required, sorry, I'd suggest, taking that out.
They sign them at every meeting.
It's not
after
required, remove that part.
After they were approved.
Okay.
The one thing that we have always done is that when the minutes have been approved in the header, it always goes minutes approved at the XYZ select BOS meeting, or whatever committee it is. You put the date of the vote of approval.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's if we do budget.
But yeah, that's what budget
I'm
does.
sorry, I didn't hear that,
When we always approve the minutes,
right?
whoever has been
Yeah, we
responsible
put,
for the
at
puts
the
in
top
the
is
head,
approved, yeah. We
they
used to do
approved
that.
at the,
Right.
you know,
Right,
April
approve such and
4th,
such a date,
2017.
right.
I
Yeah.
Or
like that.
selectmen's meeting.
Put it in the-
budget
put it in the
committee,
header.
ethics.
Because it says draft in the header, and then we changed that to approve
Right.
such and such a date. Okay, page 6, also, under F.
I just want to make a statement before we get to F.
Okay, yep,
On D, non-meetings,
yep.
I still don't know what they are.
Most of
And
us,
I've been fighting this since
Most of us
they
do.
created
most of us
non-meetings.
when we meet with an attorney, most of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
That's the only time I've.
Yeah, it's the only time I'm.
How can you have a non-meeting?
Also,
What does
another
that-
non-meeting, I think, Rod, is,
They do
union.
this.
It's
What?
not, it's not counted as either public or non-public because it's an attorney-client privilege.
There's no minutes kept.
No minute, right?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you they're used for a lot of other things that I've said, but I'm just saying,
Sure.
I don't, everybody would like to go home, so I won't keep going on
Okay,
this.
that's a good thing.
So,
Moving
All right.
along, boys.
well, we got a long ways to go, so I don't have a problem postponing some of it. But, under F, I'm not comfortable with the last line, particularly the last part of the last line.
In the brackets.
Yeah, in the parentheses. Or alternatively, in the parentheses after administrative decisions.
Yeah.
Because clearly, one of them isn't there, one of them's not true, quite frankly.
Yeah. Yeah, that isn't true.
Yeah, I think it also, yeah, it infers, glad you've done this, I think it infers something.
Right.
This is what we need to set up.
Exactly. That's part of the thought
Yeah.
process. So you can end the parentheses after administrative decisions if you'd like, or take all the parentheses out.
I'm taking all of them.
I don't have a- I don't have a problem with that. Okay? That's all I had, 6, 7. Let's see, is this needed? Covered under 91A. This is the personnel hearing side. You really need to do that because it's already covered under 91A. I don't know if you really need that section in there.
Wait a minute.
Oh, G1,
Yeah, G, yeah, actually, all of G.
1 and 2.
Well, we could be here
I think it
for
is.
a long time discussing that, so.
Just the question is, do you really need it? If you do, verify completely, it conforms to 91A. Okay, that's all I have in 7. 8, anybody else have 7, by the way? 8. I crossed out, and preferably leave the room. I don't think that's necessary. The members should immediately leave their seat at the board table and tell the board to move on to the next subject. That's it.
If they're disqualifying,
Recusing yourselves. Just cross out the preferably leave the room. I don't think you can require them, first of all. It says preferable, but it says preferable. Just take it out and preferably, okay. And then that's all I had at 8. 9. Roman numeral 4A5. This is the members was to consider, this is the select board, it says attend all the meetings to the greatest extent possible, otherwise notify, and I think they should notify the TA, not the chair. I don't want any appearance of impropriety that somebody's contacted somebody here,
Yeah, I agree.
all right? So attend all the meetings to the greatest extent possible, otherwise notify the TA, and the TA then will notify the chair and others as necessary.
You know, I think these were probably boilerplate.
They were,
Taken
it was a
from-
board of 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, I have to say, you have to excuse me. I mean, it says that the absence will be excused or something.
Yeah. Well, it's a formality, but.
Yeah.
I still might not show up if you.
We don't show up for 4 meetings.
You're out.
That's on you, kick you off, that's on you.
You kicked me off?
Still getting the ideas.
Again, number 10, this is very, very minor here on your page 10, number 10. Just start with the word with avoid. Leave off
Not
trash. I mean, it's
try
pretty
to.
minor, we're getting the minor
Because
stuff
I could have
here.
said I tried.
Yeah, number 8, I thought even take out number 8, but that's my preference, because it's just kind of there.
I thought the same thing when I read it, it was like,
Take out, it's confirmed. Consensus is take out number 8. Page 11, I don't have anything. Anybody else have anything? Page 12. Number 3 at the top. I'm going to take out the second sentence on number 3.
now is that there because staff do not want Board of Selectmen people at the
I
meeting?
mean, sometimes staff may not freely want to discuss some stuff, if in fact there are board members there, but, you know, amongst the group, that's all.
The issue here is that in my opinion, it constrains the board in a way that's not legally able to be constrained.
Well, it also, if we took that out, and let's say for some reason 2 of us showed up at a staff meeting, then we would be having a problem.
Good thinking.
Well, no, that has, it wasn't at a staff meeting, but actually that has occurred. Terry will remember that's occurred, where 2 selectmen showed up for a meeting. It wasn't a staff meeting, it was a meeting. And one informed the TA that they were going to attend and the other one did not. So when that happened, one that did not inform the TA was asked to leave and refused to leave. So that has occurred, but it was
The town, the boards of 3, that's.
and so, and just as a continuation, at that point, the meeting ended.
The only other, I mean, most of the time,
There's a couple of things.
selectmen usually say, you know, geez, like Rod wanted to come to the last staff meeting because he wanted to meet everybody,
Yeah.
because he hasn't had a chance to put names and faces and get to know at least the department heads and town, some of the other town staff. So, you know, I mean, I knew he was coming, I could put him on that he would be coming along that way, and then I knew he had another meeting at the same time, so I said, his calendars have crossed in that situation there, so personally, I'd leave it in.
Yeah.
And then I think it's just a fluid communication. And I think generally what would end up happening is there are times when the chairman of the board, after they've become seated, have come in and, you know, spoken to the staff and, you know, kind of given a flavor of you know, their range, so to speak, so.
No, I grant you that it is a courtesy and suggested courtesy for a select board member to notify the TA that they will be attending prior to that. But as I said, I think as it's written, I think it constrains the select board in ways that may not be legal.
So what if we said, instead of upon invitation or request of the town administrator, with something like with previously communicated to the town administrator, so that you could be on the agenda or of that meeting? Because that would avoid two of us showing up at the same meeting.
Not necessarily if one still insisted on coming.
Well,
And
if
again-
we were following the rules.
I think you have to
Again, do you have
take
a
it in a
suggestion?
general sense, you know, I mean, as far as, the, you know, this board may recognize
Why don't
this
we leave
right
it
was
for now,
wrong.
and if we,
Okay, we'll think on it.
My suggestion, yeah, my suggestion, take it out.
I also think we should have a discussion sometime, a little more, from my point of view, of whether, just because two selectmen are together, it is formally a meeting, you know. I don't know that I've always interpreted it as restricted.
No, there are, in fact, it's covered by law, for incidental social,
Right.
you know, unplanned social connection, that is covered. It's part of state law. Number 6, first line, I think you want to change the word must to may.
Where are you now?
Number 6 on page 12. Change
Yeah,
the word
I
must to
agree.
may, because there are times, occasionally, that they want to get advice before they do that,
Mhm.
so. And under F, number 4, I just put plain no on that one. The reason for that is that there are times when a select board member needs to contact an attorney independently about an issue. Having gone through more than enough of those over the last 3 or 4 years, I can tell you there are times that occur that happens, but you have to do it judiciously. And part of it is if it's in a legal proceeding that, again, speaking specifically some examples, I mean, there is a select board member that oftentimes is the main reference point, contact point, which may not have been officially done, but clearly has, you know, the institutional history or has the strategy already developed on that. So I just said no under number 4.
I disagree.
I disagree.
I think that needs to be in communication. I've seen my experience already, in my early time in this job, that Board of Select members may have contacted for legal counsel unbeknownst to the other board members and did not communicate that to the other board members. And then, you know, would kind of just reveal it. I think that, you know, if I communicate, then I need to communicate with you, and you should communicate with one another. Unless it's an action in which there is an issue that you may have with another board member.
Well,
So that
part of it.
in this situation here, is really that you may have an issue with the town administrator. Generally, if you want to have a legal question researched, generally you could ask the town administrator to get that legal item researched and obtain some form of written communication, whether it be through NHMA or it's through our own legal counsel.
Well, and again, I don't want to interrupt you, but if I have a question relative to a legal question or otherwise, I wish to contact NHA directly and get a response, which may or may not have anything to do with anything that's on the agenda or anything like that. It's just, I have a general question that I'd like to have answered. You know, I will contact NHMA and have contacted NHMA for a question.
Excuse me for interrupting, is NHMA considered the town attorney?
No.
No,
But it is a legal opinion.
but this,
But to change it to that, I have also contacted the legal opinion, the legal town council on some questions directly.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to go publicly into what those were for a variety of reasons. I would cover them in non-public if the board would so choose, but they were,
Okay.
again, I'm basing my comments on some very relevant
Well, not to
and recent
muddy,
experience.
yeah, not to muddy this though, but maybe, if I understand what's going on here, maybe what you want to do is put a period after town attorney directly, and a new sentence say, it is required that the nature of the communication shall be put into writing and shared with all board members as soon as practical.
Yeah, that's the part that I.
That's the part that you,
Yeah, it's not that I'm trying to hide anything from board members at all, that's not the point. It's that there have been topics of some sensitivity that would be difficult to share,
So-
in public or not?
definitely in public.
So I would think that if a board member contacted the town attorney on an urgent issue that dealt with something so sensitive that,
Well, let me provide the example specifically, not the detail part, but the specific. There was some legal advice provided, which I felt strongly was, may not have been the legal advice that was the best.
okay,
And I contacted the town attorney saying that I don't feel that you were correct in this because. I did not distribute that out to anybody else, but that did happen.
okay, so if you had distributed it out, what would have been the result?
Probably no change. In fact, I can guarantee no change, because why I didn't distribute the communication, I did distribute out, I did talk about what it was. I didn't distribute out in writing, I did talk about what it was,
I don't think a
in
board,
non-public.
I don't think a board member can act on their own on certain things. I think that I mean, unless you feel that one of your board members is, is
Yeah,
committed a
that wasn't-
crime or
Yeah, that wasn't
something
the
like
issue.
that.
That wasn't the
You
issue.
know.
Yeah.
I did, as I said, I did describe what the communication was, I just didn't provide the written part of it.
But,
Okay, because the issue is, if I wanted to do that, but I wasn't going to share it or do anything with it, so I was really doing it just for my edification.
Right. That's the second scenario.
Somebody
Why-
could say that's an ethical violation.
Yeah, why would
Yeah.
we wanna pay the bill for that, number
Yeah.
one? Right.
Well, because I'd like to have you educated. I'd like to have
You
you
know what,
educated. I'd like to have you educated, like me
But
educated.
then we
I
would
wouldn't-
share
I
that
would-
information.
You know what, I wouldn't go to the attorney that you thought was making a mistake, although it would seem like the practical thing. I'd go to another one and say, hey, this is what we were told. And that would be my business.
Well,
to take care of.
so I did share it verbally, but I didn't give it in writing, so,
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
no, that's what I'm
Okay.
saying.
So it was shared.
Yeah,
And I know in the past, there's been, like, on the audit situation there, the other board members said, actually asked you, or if you
Yeah.
were willing to.
that's a little different, because then you're authorized to do that. That's why I did it anyway, but yeah, I agree.
It's kind of tricky, because I agree, I think there might be times I'd want to ask someone, and I would be asking for my edification,
mhm.
but it would still be town business, except
Yeah,
because I'd get educated, not necessarily that I'd do anything with it, except maybe be smarter next time. I don't know.
but I still don't think I would have a problem saying, either verbally or in writing, that I contacted the town attorney about this issue and received the following information.
But
Maybe, I guess where I'm probably having the most difficult part is the writing part. So maybe if you cross out, put it into writing, and just keep it shared with the board, I
yeah,
probably could go along with
That's
that.
good.
Because I did share that,
yeah.
I just didn't put it in writing.
Okay.
Okay.
That works.
Yeah, all right.
And we still like each other.
So the beauty of understanding how to compromise. All right, 13, J2.
Any change?
Yeah, you adopted by the Ethics Committee on December 27, 2011, it's the second line. I think you should add with associated revisions, or with approved revisions, I should say.
Okay, yeah.
So, Committee 27, 2011, with approved revisions and attached here to and incorporated, blah, blah, blah. Because it has gone through some revisions since then. And then, just do updated revisions on all the attachments. Well, that was a little more onerous than it should have been.
Yeah, it was good.
Well,
All right, so-
conversation.
You guys take this and maybe revise and come back to somewhat of a finished document for us to review? Okay. All right, town hiring policy. And I think I asked Scott where the changes were in this from the prior one.
Yeah, this one here, we went over it the first time,
Yeah.
but I think I have the other copy here, so I keep all my other copies. So with this one here, the changes are under section procedures, number 3. I changed it from Board of Selectmen to Town Administrator.
Page what now?
This is-
Uh,
This is under procedures,
Yep.
and then we go to number 3, it's on the second page. And so those edits are in there, we talked about at the last meeting, so I made those changes. So in other words, it says here,
This is the town hiring policy?
the hiring,
I go to 7.
employee hiring
Oh, you know
policy.
what?
We don't have.
We don't have that. We have page 1.
Oh, you didn't get all the other pages?
No, that's why I was asking the question, because I didn't.
Sorry.
This one goes from number 2 to number 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, joys of my photocopying on Tuesday night.
That's why I couldn't figure out what.
That's all right.
Ah, it's a two-sided document that went through as a one-sided
Okay.
document.
Maybe we need to put.
So, I was, in this section here, we talked about, instead of things going directly to the Board of Selectmen, that they go to the town administrator. And in the situations when it's a department head, that it would be up to the town administrator to then distribute that to the Board of Selectmen. So that's a change in that
I see that.
section.
Take a look. It's where now? Number 3?
Number 3.
What's your submit?
I can give you the track change one.
Yeah.
It's right here.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I think actually Joan gave you the,
Yeah,
she was here that night and said,
that was a long time
in the
ago.
last section, it says.
That was a long
cases-
time ago.
Yeah, well, yeah, don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Anything else?
No, the only other thing that I was gonna mention is that, it kinda came up today, is that there isn't a provision within the hiring that talks about internal, posting. And I would ask that, that we put language in that would allow for, under the posting, section here, that it would actually say that, I'm just gonna find it here.
It's number 2 is where
It
it starts
basically is
talking.
under procedures.
Yeah.
It may give, maybe there's enough flexibility in that. It says that the Board of Selectmen shall determine whether the position will be filled with a promotion or transfer.
Exactly, that's where I was
New
gonna go.
hire.
That's where I was gonna go.
Yeah,
And I think you got the flexibility there.
and then basically, so in other words, if we had internal candidates
Mhm.
that the department had identified that may be a pool, that I could ask for a 72-hour or a 7-day or 10-day posting internally,
Right.
and then a determination made from there whether or not.
Okay.
So we'll just leave it as it's.
That's where I was gonna go with that, so. I'm okay with all the changes of you.
Yep, okay.
Need a motion then?
Make a motion to approve the town of Durham employee hiring policy as amended.
A second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It's carried 3-0. Okay, next one up is the town funding policy.
And the revisions on this one.
town appointment policy. That one.
Dealing with the vetting
Mhm.
piece. So now there's no more vetting in the hiring policy. There is-
Well, it's covered under reference checks and all that other stuff. Covered under reference checks and all that other stuff.
Yes, yeah, that's
But it's
that's
vetting
the
is just
difference.
called differently.
Right, and in the appointment policy, the vetting was still being referred to in the '07 document. I've now incorporated the '07, some of the '07 language into this one here that deals with the vetting, which I believe is number 6 and number 7 and the letter C.
It's where now?
In section, did you not get the back of that one too?
Nope, got the back, yeah.
Okay, so section C, huh?
There's no page 2.
Oh, there isn't?
No.
No.
Oh, there you go. It's on the back of that, number 6 and 7.
That's really the only change, right?
Yeah. I thought I did so well with the photocopy, didn't I?
You got one, you got the odds and not the evens on that one.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, so.
I mean, we've seen it before, I just wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay with that.
6 and 7.
That's a little change.
Would you copy those that are missing so we can kind of?
Yeah.
Okay with it?
Yeah.
Okay, so you need a motion?
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the Town of New Durham policy on appointed boards, committees, and commissions, appointed by the Board of Selectmen, as amended.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It's carried 3-0.
That'll be good because when I give you these, you'll actually have the signatures on them, see? That'll be a totally complete package.
Okay, next one is the purchasing policy.
Oh, look, we have all the pages.
And you have all the pages, that's a good sign.
Okay, I think
This is
the only
really
real
good.
changes on this one were, and we already discussed it before, and you're just gonna make the changes that we talked about, right?
The dollar amounts.
Right,
Yeah.
on page 3.
Mhm.
And I think those are the changes we already talked about, right?
Correct.
Any other changes or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve the purchasing policy as presented.
And
A second?
I'll second that.
I also fixed the, there was a reference in there, the section that wasn't there.
Right. That was after the authorization page, I remember, but you fixed that, so.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It's carried 3-0. Okay, next one is the ethics, ethics policy amendments, right? So my main question on this is, has the ethics committee met and approved these changes? I'm not sure we want to do anything with it until that happens.
We are meeting on the 15th.
Okay, I would suggest then we postpone that until we have ethics committee action on it, at which time we'll entertain it. You would put that back on the agenda, Scott, for the 18th meeting? Sure. Okay, next one is the public participation policy.
Cat. Nope, yep, you're right, sorry. Sorry.
What is it? Gotcha. This is one that I suggested some changes to, which you, I think, all have a copy of. Entertain any comments, any additional?
I read through all of them, and they all seem appropriate to me.
As I explained to Scott, I think, I'm not sure what someone else gets done. The one that was done in 2015 or 2016, I was not, I didn't feel it set the culture of and tone that I wanted to have as part of the select board meetings, hence our change here. Okay?
I guess I didn't copy for myself, you know.
And on some paper, that's it.
Sorry if I take this one?
Here, I have another one.
Oh, you
Switch, yeah.
All right.
I already put the
It's just a tickler for me to go in and make the
Yeah.
changes.
No problem.
Appreciate that. Cleaned out all my copies.
Okay,
Look for a motion then?
I'll make a motion to approve the public participation at board meeting, policy as amended.
Second? Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It's carried 3 to nothing. If you just put the day's date down the bottom of that.
Yeah.
Which may not be on mine.
Yeah, it says on this one.
Okay. I don't know if the public knows what, but it'll appear on the next agenda. On the back of the agenda, we'll have the
Yeah.
revised policy.
It's in there, right, Terry? Terry? Was it in that one?
Which one?
Yeah, the public participation, yeah, so it was.
For the sake of the audience, I'm gonna suggest that we move community room name to the next item, if that's okay. Because the others have to do with deal tax, et cetera.
Well, I was gonna suggest we postpone it for more discussion,
Community room?
yeah, but we don't have to, we can.
Why do you want to postpone?
Well, maybe we don't need to sort of all be in accord on it, but I just thought we might
Well, I'm gonna give you my position, and you can decide whether we're in accord with that or not. I have not changed the position that I've had for the last year or so on it, more than that, probably, actually more than that, 3 or 4 years. I believe we should be calling it, the whole structure, as the New Durham Community Room. I am open to and recognize, based on public input and other reasons, I'm open to recognizing individuals who have made significant contributions to the town, and those contributions should be clearly identified when that honor is so bestowed on a situation. But the structure as a whole, I favor still as being the Durham Community Room. My suggestion to look at ways to recognize people who have made significant contributions, in this case, based on public input, having Rod Nelson be recognized. Perhaps a room itself, or a part of it itself, could be Nelson something, and we could devise some sort of naming for that. But the room, the whole structure, I'd like to call the Durham Community Room. It makes it easy when we have meetings there. I think clearly it's identified for that naming. So that's my position. I would recognize that, as I said, if we felt that it would be good to have Rod Nelson in this case, which is a specific example that's been noted, because of his significant contributions for the town. I would like to find a way to be able to do that within that structure, and would welcome an opportunity to do that. So, first of all, any board member, before that, any board members have comments on that?
Well, to be frank, my emotions are that the Rod Nelson naming would be very good. My practical side of it is the New Durham Community Room over time is probably going to mean more to the general public. But I'm conflicted over it, but I think that's where I'm going. I agree with everything that was said about Rod Nelson, and he and I didn't always get along. But, I still really have respect for what he'd done for this town.
And I have to agree, I have many fond memories of Rod. And I didn't always agree with him either, but that's part of being in a small community. He did an awful lot for the community. And I would like to honor him in some way, but I also agree that, calling it the New Durham Community Room, that's really what the use is. I'd just like to, I'd like to find a way to honor Rod and other chiefs and, people that have made an impact.
Right. Okay. I did indicate during public input that during that time that if we could, we would recognize a member of the public, and Clayton did raise his hand.
I just got one
Just
follow-up.
introduce yourself again, Clayton, if you would.
What's that?
Just introduce yourself one more time, if you would.
Clayton Randall, Old Bay Road. Just a comment. I agree with you on the New Durham Community Room, but I would like everybody to think about what he's done. And I'd like everyone to know, the night Sue and I voted on that, there was a heck of a lot more people there than 3 making the decision.
Yeah.
There was a lot of townspeople there, because back then the New Durham Fire Company was made up of townspeople. It wasn't just firefighters. And I think if you look at the whole situation, nobody has done any more. I had many fights with that guy. I didn't always agree with him. In fact, he called me, you know what, more times than one, but I knew that he respected me and I respected him.
Well, one of the thinking about it, one of the things that I thought about was, you know, have it called the New Durham Community Center and then call it the Nelson Room inside of it. The difficulty I had with that is that the community center has a connotation which is different really than what it is. And so that's why I kind of
think the
came
whole
off
thing
that.
could be the community room. I have no problem with
Yeah.
that, but if that sign comes down, I'm gonna be so upset.
Oh, no.
No,
We're not, that's certainly
One of the
not.
explorers made that sign in shop
Yeah.
class.
No. What I would like to do is find a way to further recognize that name inside there somehow. But the structure itself, and I would suggest we put it even on the outside, because we are gonna have, you know, as an example, the Cyanobacteria Steering Committee will have significant visitors from out of New Durham, not only Alton, which knows a little bit about New Durham, but also Concord and other areas. So I'd like to see some signs put up actually on that room outside, so that when we do have those kinds of meetings, it's readily apparent to the public that's where it is. So, you know, I would, you know, if we can come to a consensus and decision on the naming of it, I'd ask the TA to go ahead and put that signing together fairly quickly. I don't think you can do it before May 11th, but by the same token, do it
If you
fairly
people
quickly.
don't feel comfortable in doing it, I say, let the people decide.
Well, you know, I don't have a problem doing it, but as I said, I would do it initially under the New Durham Community Room, and then under the understanding that we would find a way to further recognize in some naming structure within that building.
Whatever you guys decide, I'll go along with, but I still think that should be the Nelson Room. Whatever you decide.
Yeah. And as I said, the difficulty I had is room, i.e. community
Yeah.
room and then Nelson Room. That's why I said, well, maybe call it community center, but that has a whole different connotation.
I think it can be the New Durham Community Room and still be called the Nelson Room.
Well, let's work, let's one step at a time. Recognizing the first step may be the whole structure, and also with the intent that you know publicly that we said we will look at ways to do a Nelson recognition somewhere within that structure.
I started thinking about this a couple of weeks ago when I discovered it was coming up, and I wondered one of two things. Can it be the New Durham Community Room with a sort of a sub-sign or sign dedicated to the memory of Rod Nelson? So we could move it forward as the New Durham Community
Yeah,
Room,
make
so
it
for the
I agree
general
with
public.
that, the New Durham Community Room dedicated too, that would be fine with me.
I'd even wonder if there was a way you could dedicate the fire building, I mean, the actual fire facility, as the Rod Nelson Memorial Fire Department or something. I don't know. Yeah, the other chiefs. Just a thought, but I thought maybe the subhead dedicated to the memory of Rod Nelson.
Okay. Let's
Just-
look at this.
just-
He would be
just
so
decide.
glad that he's still a problem.
Just, oh yeah, and he'd be reminding me of how much I was a problem with him, yes.
Before we recognize Doc Mizell, introduce yourself if you would.
Doug Mizell, 3 Weeks Road. I agree with you with love still being a problem. I like the idea of a sign outside saying it's a community room, because I have had to meet people in the parking lot and they've asked, where is the community room? And
Yeah.
down do have public meetings in that room. I don't have a problem. I think that's quite an honor to dedicate it to Rod Nelson.
I think that's a good idea too.
I
I'll go
also
along with that.
liked the idea of having a section of a wall for the former chiefs.
Mhm.
George Bickford, who organized
Yeah.
mutual aid in this area. We've
Mhm.
had many really good
Absolutely.
role models as chief. And I'm not
No, I know.
opposed to
No,
dedicating, but
I,
we've had other good chiefs, and I'd like to see either their badges or a small picture or some kind of, or both, some kind of recognition of the former
And maybe
fire
that
chiefs.
covers the recognition also. We could have the Nelson Wall in which we recognize all the fire chiefs. Maybe that's the way to do it. Have the New Durham Community Room, have the Nelson Wall
I
recognize
still
all
would
the
like
fire
the
chiefs.
room dedicated to him, but you're.
Yeah, I understand.
Well,
I guess what I'm saying is,
it out on me.
what I'm saying is allow us to do it in a phased situation.
Whatever you guys
Get
decide.
the overall
How
structure
I
name,
feel.
get the overall structure name first, recognize it, we'll follow up with a way to.
I just don't want to go in there every time I go in there and grit my teeth, that's all.
That's, okay. So, I will make a motion, I will make a motion to, sorry, go ahead.
If we make a motion, I would like to go ahead and include in the motion that internally, the room is signed with dedicated to the memory of Rod Nelson.
Yeah. Concept of recognizing significant contributors to the town, I'm absolutely in favor of. I'd like a little flexibility on how we do that, because there are a couple of options. One's the whole room dedicated, one's a wall in which we have the Ron Nelson wall with the fire chief recognition. So there's a variety of ways to do it. I'm suggesting we do it in two different steps. One is the whole structure name, which will be just in the Durham Committee Room, followed by either tonight or next discussion, next meeting, how we recognize those significant contributors in the fire area here, specifically Ron Nelson.
I think we're talking about two different things. I also agree that it should be the New Durham Community Room with a plaque inside that says dedicated to the, or outside dedicated to the memory of Rod Nelson. And then inside, we could have the, an honor wall for all fire chiefs. And it can be called an honor wall. It doesn't have, the wall doesn't have to be named after an individual.
That sounds good. Sounds good.
Okay,
Sounds
let me,
good. I like that. I should dedicate the room to Rod Nelson.
next one, second.
Again, that's just me talking.
We basically have the overall structure called the New Durham Community Room. We have a way to recognize Rod Nelson, either through a plaque which says dedicated to Rod Nelson, or a wall. And I actually, I'm thinking about, you see, having a wall saying dedicated to Rod Nelson with all the fire chiefs that are dedicated to Fire Chief Rod Nelson, I think you'd want to say. But, again, looking for some action now.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we change the name of the room attached to the back of the firehouse to the New Durham Community Room with a plaque that says dedicated to the memory of Fire Chief Rod Nelson.
I'll second
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
that. Aye.
Aye.
Yay.
Just carry, those opposed, if it's carried through.
How'd I do, Rod?
So,
He's not gonna tell you you did good.
just quickly,
Still be calling you.
you'll take care of developing a sign on the outside from the community room, and also inside where that plaque would be, maybe, I mean, just as an idea, and it goes with some of the discussion we've had recently. Maybe you wanna think about asking the fire association, fire company, whatever, to create a design for the wall or something.
Or for a corner, corner of the wall, to
Yeah.
be
A section of the wall.
honoring the
Let them
former fire.
come up with, they don't have the approval to go ahead and do it, but come forward with the design suggestions to the board. You understand the concept and the culture we're trying to develop here, right? That sounds like a
Yeah.
reasonable.
Can we also throw a coat of paint on at least the doors, or kind of spruce that area up.
I think the doors need replacing with a
It
lot.
looks, it really looks a
Different
little
issue.
shabby over there, if we can
Needs to
do,
be painted, yeah.
not just
Oh.
painted, but look at like the outside entranceway and just kind of,
Okay, moving ahead. Oh, sorry.
As you're looking at the wall inside, are you anticipating, or would you give consideration to listing all of the fire chiefs? What so many of the past fire chiefs have done has been forgotten because people have forgotten them. Not that many people know that we've had 2 brothers be fire chief of that department. Most people are unaware of that. We've had a variety of different people that have served, and I just don't want the time and the commitment it takes to be a good fire chief is enormous. And I don't want their names to be lost.
well, I think that's part of the honor wall.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, have come up with some suggestions on design. The concept that I think is
Will you
agreed
be working
that
with the fire department
you,
on that?
And we want to get some help from the town historian.
I missed Rod's comment, so I want to hear that first before I jump into any fire.
Oh, just then, I was just asking you if anyone here was gonna be working with the fire department to create this. No?
well,
I'm always a resource. I'm always a resource.
Okay.
I'm willing to help too, if the fire department wants me.
They may not want me.
I get it. Okay,
Okay.
all right, we're gonna move on. Okay, yeah, we missed one of the policies.
No, I don't think so.
I know,
Good.
I'm wondering how
We
many.
get to
We
yield.
missed the
New machine they got over there, they don't like
policy
to
review change.
participate too much.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that's on.
It's an old business.
We
Pardon?
haven't missed it
Yeah,
yet.
okay, sorry. I'm gonna suggest a couple of things here in line of the hour. I'm suggesting that we postpone tax deeded properties on our own business till the next meeting. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Okay. Policy review, I'm gonna suggest it's gonna be a very quick one, so.
Yeah.
So, I would like to get the minutes
The
done.
rest of them are pretty quick.
Yeah, well, I would like to get the minutes done. Okay, let's go with yield tax assessments then. That's pretty straightforward.
Yep, these are similar to what you had last time. These are the timber reports and assessments based upon what the forester put together for the stumpage, and you have sample motions with the appropriate mapping lots.
Okay, so we'll look for a motion on this.
I can leave now.
Yep, I will make a motion to authorize a timber yield tax levy be issued on map 258, lot 026, in the amount of $343.37, which is due to the tax collector on 6/7/17.
Second,
I'll second that.
further discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 We have a second?
What? You did it.
Oh, aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Opposed? No, it's carried. Wow, yeah.
I would like to make a motion to authorize a timber yield tax levy be issued on map 243, lot 035, in the amount of $288.28, which is due to the tax collector on 6/7/17.
Second,
I'll second.
further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's carried 3-0. Okay, do you sign them? Oops, yeah. Okay, next up is the application for restoration of involuntary lot merger.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that in review of what documents are on file here at the town hall in the property file, that this be sent back to the requestors to provide further information relative to the construction of the home and septic system, well, or any other changes to the property, so that that can be taken into consideration Under the state statute relative to doing involuntary lot mergers, it speaks to whether or not there have been alterations made to the properties themselves, and whether or not there have been any, by unmerging the lots, whether or not they will then become in violation or of any planning or zoning regulations. As I look at the current tax maps, the plotting of these home looks like it actually traverses 2 lot lines,
Okay.
yeah, on the corner of it. And it may be just that the plotting from that may be wrong, but I think that it's the applicant's responsibility to be able to show to us where it actually is on the lot, where the meets and bounds, you know, of that structure is.
Where the
and
septic
plotting,
system
and the
is.
septic system is, because they're asking for all of the lots to then be unmerged. And it kind of sounds to me, or somebody could say, they could, if they came back to you and said, well, we only want to unmerge these 3, from what I understand in reading the interpretation of the statute is, it's either all or nothing.
Okay.
If not, you would then be, because by you unmerging and only unmerging 2 or 3 of them and leaving 2 of them combined, you're basically authorizing a subdivision which you don't have the authorization to do. It had to be go to planning, so that's what it might.
Mhm.
Good. That was time.
Okay. So what you're suggesting is that
Yeah,
this really should not be acted on or should be denied, at
Send
least
back
until
away.
such time as more information is obtained?
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll write a letter to the applicants and basically just say that we've received the application, we've done some preliminary research, and, you know, the application is not accepted at this time because we need to have verification of, you know, what's happened to the property as far as alterations.
Okay, so just, and you're agreeing with that?
Yes.
You agree with that? So just, I think the communication would be by consensus. The Board of Selectmen has indicated that we need more information to make any decisions and authorize the town administrator to communicate those requirements that are needed.
Yep.
Okay? By consensus, that's what the minutes should show. Okay, next. Very quickly, let's talk about the DPW seasonal.
Yes. So, we did put out for the mowing and fertilization and spring cleanup, pricing back on that. I think we can use, if in fact the bidder, there was only 1 bid received, one quote, RFP received. There is, if the bidder is acceptable with it, to use pieces of it to help our situation, because we can't do fertilization on our town properties. And we may be able to use some of the funds that we allocated for mowing and such and put it towards that, and then also use the ability to hire some temporary seasonal help for the summer months here to help us out with buildings and grounds and highway. They're down 1 full-time staff person with no DPW director, and I think this will help us bridge the gap until there's a decision by the board as to how they wish to proceed with the either filling a DPW director position or looking at other structures.
So you're basically looking for 2 seasonal?
Yeah, I would look for 2, at this juncture, 2 seasonal positions. That we may, you know, see what we get, and I would put in there that, you know, CDL would be preferred. I would like to have a pay range of from $12.53 to $15.
I just call it 1250.
Or $12.50.
Yeah.
That was $12.53 was the last.
Yeah, I understand.
So,
It's still in the.
yeah, $12.50 to $15, because if you get somebody who has a CDL, then of course you're gonna pay them at the higher. But if we should get a college young, you know, college man or a high school young fellow that wants to come and cut grass and that kind of stuff, then we could utilize him at a lower rate, of course.
Okay.
So if it's okay with the board for me to go ahead and put that out for an advertisement, then.
Yeah. So I'll make a motion to authorize the TA to post for 2 seasonal Department of Public Works employees, with the specific intent that mowing and other related activities would be their primary function. And have the pay range in the range of $12.50 to $15 per hour.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Do we need to specify the dates? of
Well, that's why I call
seasonal?
it seasonal.
Okay.
And, you know,
There's certain parameters on the season, we can only run them for so many.
yeah. So,
Basically, it's,
This includes the rec area.
yes. Yeah, this will help
all
out,
field mowing, that kind of thing, right?
we did, we have, just so you know, Nicole and I have chatted.
Go ahead,
No,
finish.
Nicole and I did chat, because I asked her if she could check with her, some of her summer staff, to see if they had any interest in picking up any extra hours possibly and doing some of that mowing down there, because she had talked about that in budget as well. And we gotta get them rolling, because they're playing ball down there and stuff now. So, she will know next week, because one of her staffers is a college student, be getting out of school end of this week, and she'll have insight on that. So that may help bridge some of these gaps here to help fill in. So, but yes, short
I
answer.
figured it did, I just wanted.
The highway guys went up and did the cemetery today, cleaned that up. Donnie's gonna try, I mean, tomorrow's supposed to be a rain out, so, tomorrow's gonna be a wash, but.
Does rec have its own mower now?
No.
They do?
They used to.
Have your own mower?
Yes,
Do we have more yet?
Yes.
Right, yeah. I will have a follow-up motion to this, by the way, after this, but related. Any further discussion on this one?
no.
All in favor say, all in favor say, what'd you say, Scott? Hey, do you know how much stuff we've done?
I know, it's great, I love it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, it's carried 3-0. I do have a follow-up motion. I will make the motion that, that the expense for the 2 seasonal DPW employees that were just voted, to the extent possible, come from the respective departmental contracted mowing expense lines.
That makes sense.
Pardon?
I said that makes sense, sorry.
Oh, thank you. Do I have a second to
I
that?
was just thinking out loud.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, it's carried 3-0. Okay, next.
Just so you know, on that.
Hey, now you're the one that's holding this up.
And,
Okay, go ahead.
what will end up happening is, I understand, what we just talked about,
Right.
but, it'll end up coming out of part-time wages.
I understand
And
that.
then we know that we have it someplace else,
Yeah.
so, other than, I may come back to you and say, doing some fertilization, it may be easier to take it out of there, but
Right.
we're saving on some.
I understand that, but what I wanted on record is that when you look at the budget, you're looking at all of those.
Yep.
Which is exactly the motion, that's the intent. All right, next item, just quickly, budget review. Last night, the budget committee did meet for the first time. Our chair is here, not on behalf of the budget committee, but on another matter. But we did meet, we did review the budget as part of the budget committee's process. I was, for whatever reasons, in 15 and 16 and 14, we did do it, but 15 and 16, for other reasons, the board of selectmen didn't really periodically review the budget, which I never completely understood, but I would like to do that as part of our process. I'm not saying we're going to go line by line by any stretch. The areas where, and Scott, you may want to comment, and Kathy too, since you said it, but the areas where the budget committee expressed some concern were the Department of Public Works Highway specifically, because of salt and all that. They're a little bit below what you'd like to see. I think that was the main one that was a concern, but recognizing, no, there's one other. The other one was the police budget on one of the lines, but the comment there was that they can make up or manage the process such that in the long run, it's not gonna be a problem on one of their lines. So those are the 2 areas where there was a little bit of discussion. But I would encourage you, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time tonight, encourage you to look through the packet of the budget where we were at the end of March and ongoing from the board. I will take a agenda item in the future to spend a little bit more time on it, but just wanted to give you the heads up tonight.
Okay.
Anything I missed?
No, I did, no, they were provided.
I know
go
that.
through
I know
it.
they were, but Kathy, anything I missed?
No, we noted a few line items
Yeah.
that we wanted discussion on, and we were satisfied that there's a plan in place to maintain the bottom line. And we've rescheduled for our next quarterly review for August 2nd, I believe it is.
Then, two other things. I would like, this is just informational and requesting of work for Scott. Who's the NHMA authorized access into their system? Do you know?
I can.
You are, anybody else?
I don't think so.
Okay. You might want to think about somebody else. I'd be
Yeah,
happy. I'd be happy
I
to
think
do
John
that.
Nato used to be.
Yeah, I think you should have another person, but I'd be happy to do that too. But the point I'm trying to make is not only that, but I would like someone specifically to look into their information, make sure that all of the information they have from New Durham is current.
Yeah, I have the sheet, and I just need to go in. I've gone through the sheet and updated it, and now I just need to go into the portal and make the changes.
If it's budget committees and or something, whoever it is that they need, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do have that.
And so if you would take care of that. And then quickly, and again, it's getting late and I recognize that, but I would like to explore the idea of, as I said, I just arbitrarily call it, as I said, I give credit to Selectman Chase, and I think came up with a point idea here. Coffee with the Town, in which the idea here is that once every 2 weeks, once a month, whatever, there would be advertised out that a selectman or a town administrator or a department head or somebody would spend an hour maybe or something, arbitrarily just for purposes of illustration, say 10 o'clock in the morning over at the corner store, sit down, and whoever member of the public wanted to come in and chat and have input and whatever, could have the opportunity to do that without any, other surroundings. Just kind of an idea.
As a follow-up to that, I was talking to Tim Goodwin from Wolfeboro Community TV. They do have a program similar to that, and actually they would love to film. And I'm not sure if everybody knows, Channel 24 on Metrocast is dedicated to New Durham. Channel 25 is Wolfeboro, Channel 26 is the school district. So they would even be willing to change all of the naming on that station to New Durham Community TV as well. But yes, he said they would love to get something like that and
Would
film it.
Daryl mind it being filmed?
Oh, I don't think so, not at all.
Who pays for the coffee?
TBD. But again, throwing out for the idea here, and maybe at the 18th we put it on in the official to try to get it fully organized. But again, to Selectman Chase's credit, I think it was a good idea and appreciate the thought. And I did have a quick talk with Daryl over at Corner Store. He was very, very much interested and appreciative of that. I think you've already had a talk with him prior to that. So again, you alternate, one month or what, I was thinking, divide whether it's a month or 2 weeks, whatever. It might be, one a selectman, one other month it might be the TA, one month it might be the police chief, whatever.
Yeah.
So we'll set up a routine schedule for it. I think, what I'd like to do, if we can get it organized at the next select board meeting, I would like to put out some sort of communication to like Meridian Lake Association people, to all the residents that are coming in as a seasonal kind of thing, so that they have the opportunity to come see. Maybe we do a planning board or a budget committee, rotate it so that people have the opportunity to interact appropriately. Again, I haven't covered with the budget committee, so I can't speak on that. But just the idea. Pardon?
We have meetings for that.
Well, you have meetings for that for people that can come to them, but not everybody, like a seasonal resident, may not be here on Wednesday.
They're available on,
But they're not available to interact. Not available for input on Wednesday. A seasonal employee seasonal resident comes up here on Friday maybe, goes back on a Monday. They're not here.
Yeah, maybe it's.
They pay a lot, they pay a lot of taxes.
It is, it's only an hour,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, again, I can't speak on behalf of the budget, but from the point of view of the town employees and the point of view of the budget of the Board of Selectmen, let's consider that at the next meeting. Okay? Next item, policy review committee charge, sorry. I think there's one change that we had.
Yeah, I changed, it's on number
Second
5.
page, yep. I think it should read now, because, I crossed out the word estimate. I guess I have a couple of, do you have the final version?
Yeah.
Final version was in the packet.
It does say estimate.
I have my handwriting, I think that's.
I didn't have that crossed out in the last one.
Yeah. Okay, I do have another suggested change here. And that is, cross out the word estimated. I do have that one.
This is on page 2.
On page 2, yeah.
5.
Number 5, yeah, which is really only the other change. Cross out the word estimated, start with conclusions. So,
Start with what?
start with conclusion.
Conclusion?
Yeah. Conclusion of work of the committee will be on August 31st, 2017, unless further authorized by the Board of Selectmen.
All right, so that's a conclusion.
Want me to read it?
So. Which one do you?
No, that's the wrong one, yeah, where you had it was the wrong one. It's the last,
Okay,
last
I'm
sentence. Yeah.
Jeepers, I thought we were doing it. I'm definitely gonna have to pick up muffins in the morning and bring them into the staff now.
I'll print it, you should be able to read that a little bit better. Not a lot.
Thank you.
Oops.
Thank you.
You did better, yeah?
Oh, you did put more in it.
Okay, so again, just quickly, that last sentence, conclusion of work of the committee on August 31st, 2017, unless further authorized by the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
All right?
I will make a motion to approve the policy review committee charge, is that what it's called? As amended.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed? It's carried. Good enough. That, with the postponement of tax deeded properties, concludes the public session, except for minute review. We have a request, I think we're requesting to go into non-public, if I understood correctly, is that right?
That's correct.
We have a request for some additional business in non-public. I'm not sure what category you're looking to do it in. Do you know the
I believe it was D.
letter what?
D.
D, okay.
D is in dog.
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't quite sure what the subject matter is. I do have an inkling of it based on discussions that you and I and Scott and I have had, so. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. So, and then again, for the select board, and I apologize, this is the longest select board we've had, and I think what we covered here is a phenomenal amount of business.
Tick-tock. Tick-tock.
Hey, I'm just telling you. So I'll make up, just want to recognize the board will come back into public session with the primary objective of going over the minutes of the agenda. I'll make a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A:3, Roman numeral 2, D as in dog, consideration of the acquisition, sale, or lease of real or personal property which if discussed in public would likely benefit a party or parties whose interests are adverse to those of the general community. That seems interesting. Okay. That's the motion. Anybody
I'll second.
second? Any further discussion? Requires a roll call vote. Selectman Doherty?
Aye.
Selectman Chase?
Aye.
Selectman Swenson, aye. We will leave public session at 10 o'clock even.
Very well, could be.
Good. You want to hit the,
Yeah, I hit the button.
Do we have to go upstairs?
I think if everybody leaves, when I lock the front door, we don't have.
right,
Okay.
party or parties whose interests are adverse to those of the general community. All right, just to repeat, I make a motion to seal the minutes under the situation that information could likely benefit a party or parties whose interests are adverse to those of the general community. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? So carried.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Now, to the public section, we have 3 sets of minutes. Do you have those? Yes. Revisions?
So we have April 6th, and then we have.
Well, you have April 6th,
Non-public.
non-public also.
Those, yeah, they're non-public unsealed,
Yeah.
and I think there was only one change on those, or 2 changes. One was a time correction, and the other one was the, instead of adjourn, it's
This is
relocated.
the public section here.
So that
This
one's,
is April 17th.
that's the 17th, because we already distributed the other ones.
Yeah, I don't think I have them, because I got them before you copied, remember?
Yep. Here's a 6.
Okay. Yeah. Just, you want to keep that?
Okay.
Actually, I have that one.
I know we did send it to you.
Yeah, I have that one. Well, yeah, but I don't print them out, so I don't have them for anybody to do that.
So, we can do the April 6th one first, and that wasn't on the agenda, so that's all.
Right. Anyway, just got one modification, so.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the non-public minutes of April 6th as amended.
Second. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, it is carried 3-0. This is non-public unsealed. Okay, next one. April 17th, which is the one you just gave. I have quite a few changes here. What you see in green, I just moved to a different location in the minutes. So that's not a change other than the location. Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of April 17th, 2017 as amended.
Second?
A second.
Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, it is carried 3-0. And we have April 20th. Yeah.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes of April 20th, 2017 as amended.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's carried. Those opposed, it is carried 3-0. And we have the final one on April 26th. Just to quickly clarify, all of these minutes, with the exception of the, not all of these minutes are those meetings that were held between the last regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting and this regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting. So.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of April 26, 2017 as amended.
Second,
Second.
further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed, it is carried 3-0. With that, I think we complete the agenda. We postponed one item. But again, I thank you for your patience, and this is longer than we would normally go, but I think the volume of business that we did was significant. We dealt with some issues, which I think we did, and the outcome is positive. So
So you know you've done a lot of work, but you got that much to deal with tomorrow.
there you go. Get your last day.
Are you going away on vacation?
Yeah.
We're in public, so I'd rather don't say too much on that.
Can I make a,
yeah.
done?
Yep.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a second?
A second.
No discussion on the motion to adjourn, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed, it is carried 3-0, we're out of 10:22. Even that's not too bad. Right, Scott?
It's better than
Yeah,